This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Open Skies in the Masai Mara. You can see there's a few little puffy clouds in the distance, but otherwise still a bit of blue around, and fairly warm today, actually. It's been quite hot during the course of the morning, which probably means we're going to get a bit of rain at some point. In fact, when I look over the escarpment, there's lots of cloud that is coming that way. But my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got a Manu this afternoon, and it is a very warm welcome to the show that brings you animals live in your living room, which means that we want to actually talk to all of you, because otherwise it's very boring if we just drive around and none of you actually talk to us. We like to hear about all the things that you have to say, particularly if you have questions. And so if you have questions, hashtag SafariLive on Twitter or at FC on the YouTube chat. And you just have to keep it relevant to what you're actually seeing on the screen, and we'll hopefully answer as many as possible. You can see Manu showing you where the clouds are and maybe a little bit of rain that may be starting to fall, and also where we are heading. So Manu and I are going to be heading in that direction. We're going to be going onto the other side of that forest in the hopes that we can find the Olololo pride. We had them this morning. They were looking hungry. There was buffalo nearby. There was zebras nearby. There was waterbuck, giraffe. And so hopefully this afternoon we might get them up and moving, particularly if a storm starts to roll in. There's the dark cloud that I was telling you coming over the escarpment. And so if that starts to come in and rain starts to fall, I wouldn't be surprised if the Olololo pride decides to start moving and hunting. But I'm not the only one out here this afternoon. There will be two of my co-workers that will be with me. One of them will be down south in South Africa, and his name is Sydney, and he wants to say hello to all of you.
So you can see that there is a movement of a very big animal behind the green bushes there. That is our largest land mammal, is the elephant. And a very, very good afternoon and welcome to the beginning of the afternoon safari. I am Sydney Fumorani Mikosi, and I'm traveling with Craig, who is my professional camera operator. We are going to be with you this afternoon, and we will try by all means and get you see a lot of interesting animals. We are easily accessible. You can follow us for your questions and comments on Twitter, hashtag SafariLive. So it's quite a small head. You can see we've got also the big one, and the little one is also feeding on some of the small trees there. These elephants, they are very lucky because it rained a lot here by the Juma Game Reserve, and the bush is bringing all the nutrients. They must be enjoying the taste at the moment. Elephants don't worry too much about the tannin levels by this kind of vegetation. Tannin is a poison the trees are secreting in order to regulate the browsing activities. Browsing has got something to do with the consumption of the leaves from the trees. I am also enjoying the vegetation when it's looking very green like this. The only challenge by this time of the year is some of the trees, flowering plants, when they're bringing flowers, you pick up different kind of scent. Some of the flowers smell sweet, and some of them, they smell bad. But there's reasons behind those kind of smells. Some, they smell sweet to attract the insects, whereas some, they smell bad in order to chase away the animals who might come and feed on their flowers. James, the elephants, each head of them, which is consisted of the daughters and the little ones, is led by the oldest matriarch. Matriarch is the one responsible, is the one in charge of giving orders by the head. So the elephants, without the matriarch, is always a challenge. But if they lose a matriarch, another one has to take over and lead the group. Unfortunately, here, the males, they are not responsible at all, and they don't have any say when it comes to the decision making. No disagreement between male and females. Vicky, The elis are very beautiful animals. You can see that one is feeding on a plant. That plant, I can recognize it from far. That is the sickle bush. The sickle bush is one of the plants which has got a it's very rich in terms of the protein content. It contains over 4% of the proteins. So normally you will get the amount of proteins up to 8%. So that's why these big animals rely on the acacia trees as well as the sickle bushes to get quite a lot of energy to move that very big body size. Alex, the elephants, they don't really have a favorite specific food, but they do have a specific favorite fruit, which is the amarula. The marula fruit, the one which makes the amarula beer, that is their special kind of a fruit. But when it comes to the vegetation, elephants are not selective, they are bulk feeders. That is why these kind of animals don't lose weight even during the dry season, because they don't have, their diet is consisted of variety of vegetation types, including the grasses. So I can see that these elephants, they are moving away. And while they are moving away, let me also lead you to Tristan, who is also moving around the Kenya Masai Mara.
I am indeed. I'm on the move like your elephant, Sydney. I hope I don't look like an elephant, although the way that we get fed by Chef Joel here in the Mara, it's probably very possible at this stage of the game. Anyway, we're slowly kind of moving along. You'll see we're kind of just on the edge of the forest at the moment. It's just kind of coming this side. What's really nice is that we had a brief view of the Kichwa male, the dark of maned one, and he's on the other side. So everybody has gone that side to go look at him, which means that this side is going to be nice and quiet, and nobody really should be anywhere near us. Now, Manu, do you think you can get that bird of prey? I know it's quite far, but let's have a little look-see, because we're still looking out for our snake eagle, which actually I have a nice update about. So one very fortunate thing about what we do here is that we get to work with a lot of very, very knowledgeable people. The other really nice side of it is that we get to have a whole bunch of very knowledgeable viewers that watch our show daily, and a lot of you contribute a lot. There's a lot of different names that come to mind, so you know, Judy H and James, Richard, and one other gentleman also that helps us a lot is Project Alpha. Now, Project Alpha, this morning we were talking about the snake eagle that I was saying is very uncommon. And he was saying he has a feeling that we've seen it before on Drive. It was identified at the time as a black-chested snake eagle, a young black-chested snake eagle in its second plumage. But he didn't really think it resembled that. And so he kind of sent me the photos and said, what do I think? And I forwarded it on to the raptor guys here in the Mara and asked them what their opinion was. And they reckon that he's spot on. In fact, it was that very special snake eagle, which I still can't pronounce, by the way. And I actually think we might have found the other one that's spending time here. You know that. This looks just like it. So it has supposed to have a little white throat patch, which this one actually does look like. It would be a coincidence if we did find it. So Project Alpha says, well, flattery will take us far. Thank you. I hope so. No, I'm joking. It's just that Project Alpha always helps us with some very, very interesting stuff. He often sends through some really epic articles about studies that are being done and some very sort of scientific and technical stuff, which is really hugely valuable, and that goes to every single one of you that help us out with all the things, with IDs and everything like that. I don't think you guys, a lot of you, realize how appreciated it often is by a lot of the presenters here. I certainly appreciate it, and I know a lot of the others do. When we speak to you, a lot of the guys, you know, everyone kind of really appreciates being helped out from time to time. As much as we try and kind of gain knowledge and assimilate knowledge on our own, it's just having a community and having so many different resources from everybody means that we all learn that much faster, and that's what makes what we do so special. In many respects, is that there's nowhere else where you can have this many people all together twice a day for 6 hours discussing wildlife related things and actually learn about it. So it's a pretty special It's a pretty special thing. Right, now I want to just double check this bird, because this bird looks very, very, very much like what we are really looking for, and this is the area that it keeps being seen in. So it is a snake eagle. You can see it's got featherless legs, right? Now its back is almost impossible to tell, but there you can see the barred tail. That is very much a indicative sign of this species, and it does have the white throat. Now, Project Alpha, what do you reckon? Anybody else want to see, or maybe get a screenshot that they can blow up if we can just get the bird to turn again and see what we think? I have a funny feeling that it might be one of them. Apparently there's 2 or 3 of them that come to the Mara, into the Mara Triangle every year. It's a very special bird. Like I say, it occurs in West Africa. So I'll try and say it again, Bedaines or Bedainus. How would we say it? I don't even know, man. How to say it? I'm butchering the name horribly. The French people are going to kill me. But anyway, apparently that's the name of it. I'll show you all now so you can all have a little look at how the spelling is. But it's very tricky with snake eagles out here, because you get the juveniles, black-chesteds, can often look a little bit like it. And so it's not easy to always tell. But this one definitely has like a creamy throat patch and a grey cere, which, you know, there's the right kind of things for it. The head just doesn't look quite right. It's so far away though that it's tricky to tell. Can you guys also see the spider web that's blowing in the wind too, which is quite cool? So Project Alpha, you also reckon it's worth watching. If it just turned, it would be so much easier. Now you can see there's a bit of the spider webs that are kind of coming all over the place. Now those will just be lines that a spider throws out and uses to be able to go to the next place. So when it wants to build a web from one place to another, or when it wants to get a long distance, they'll basically do what's called ballooning. So they'll let out silk, and then they use that to be able to get to another point, or basically the silk to get to another point to then anchor and be able to then start building their nests across. And sometimes you get very long strands that will flutter in the breeze, and you can see how long that one is. It's coming all the way, looks like possibly from even past that left-hand tree. Oof, this bird, I'm not sure. I hesitate to make a call on it, to be honest. I'm hoping it will turn. It looks very much like it. Right, well, we're just going to spend a little bit of time here. I just want to see if it will turn or fly for me, and see if we can get anything diagnostic from there. While I do that though, David wants to say good afternoon, and he's with elephants just like Sydney was.
Hello everyone, and it's a bit tricky sometimes when you see the eagles when they are juvenile. That's always a stage when they could be a bit confusing, but I'm sure Tristan is very good in birding. He's going to figure it out and know what exactly type of a snake eagle it is. Well, my name is David, and good afternoon everyone, and with me on camera today is Archie. It's a very warm welcome to a drive. I'm on the other side of the Mara while Tristan is on the other side. Well, very nice to start with elephants on such a lovely day in terms of weather. The light is just perfect, not a single drop of rain. The elephants are just walking there, and it's a small family with the young ones. And remember, our safari drive is always very interactive. So your questions and comments give us lots of happiness, and I'm sure you know how to send them. Bremen, very good. You're the first one to ask the question, and I was just saying on how to ask questions. I'm sure you all know on Twitter, #SafariLive, or you can keep following us on the YouTube chat stream. Well, Bremen, I'll tell you, the African elephants, to me, have slightly larger ears than Indian ears, or than the Asian elephants. As you can see there, what Archie is showing you. And in every part, or in every body organ, I would say, or body part of an African elephant, it's big by any standard. Talk of the ears, the tusks, you know, the legs, the trunks, the tails. I personally think that the African elephant is bigger by maybe 10-15%. I'd be happy to hear what Tristan and Sydney would say, but ideally, I would say they're big. And Bremen's still looking at that ear. I remember when we were in college, we used to make jokes that to tell them apart from the obvious differences. As you see, that one doesn't have a tail, and that's not going to be one of the differences between the African and the Asian elephant. While in college, we used to make jokes that to tell them apart, males of the Asian elephants have tusks and the females do not have. And the African elephants, it's both sexes, the males and the females. But above all, coming back to your question, Braben, if you look at that ear there, we used to say the ear of an elephant, or the African elephant, looks or takes the shape of an African map, and the ears of the Asian elephants look like the Asian maps. I do not know whether that makes sense, but that's what we used to say while we were in college. Now, as temperatures are warming up, what these ellies will keep doing is to keep flapping their ears. I'm sure we all know the cooling of the blood is done around the ears. So that young calf there, who you will guess could be going to about 3 years of age, because you can see that young or the small tusks coming out, she just uprooted a whole plant for herself. So anytime they try to bring something out of the ground using their trunks and it doesn't work out, they'll always give it a small nod or small knock using their feet, and that one helps to bring it out. Now they got all their ears out, as I was saying earlier, just to help cooling off. Sinak, good question, and always very happy to hear your name, Sinak. Well, the people around here have respected the elephants very much, and unless, Sinak, there's a drought and we see the elephants getting outside the game reserve and going out and terrorizing the locals. I'm talking of the elephants going to their homes, not their homes per se, going to their gardens and attacking or eating their crops, Sinak. Ideally, they have a very good relationship between elephants and the locals. The biggest challenge, Sinak, here is between the hippos and the local community, and sometimes the buffaloes. We have what you call human-wildlife conflict, but we have lots of game rangers will always come around and educate the locals on what to do and not what to do. Should they spot, for example, elephants from a distance and they think they're going the direction towards their villages or their homes, they have what you call community wardens who they report to, and the game rangers will come and push them back to the game reserve. Lovely. My plans today, I don't want to look for lions, I want to look for the black rhino, but Archie spotted a very useless bird. And I'm sure as Tristan is working on his bird, at one point I'm sure he'll come back to me to show you one very special bird that Archie just spotted. But in the meantime, let's go first back to Tristan.
Well, our bird, unfortunately, is not helping things at all at the moment. It's really not kind of playing the game. It's stayed exactly the way it is. But what I can tell you is that it definitely has a very yellow eye and a black beak, which is the right kind of diagnostic features for that kind of bird, but so does the black-chested. But it just doesn't look right to me for a black-chested youngster. It's so tricky in this particular part of the world. Also, the short-toed eagle also looks quite similar. So I don't know. I mean, could it be? I was hoping it was going to fly after it ruffled its feathers a little bit just now. I was hoping that I was going to see it actually take off, and then we could actually get a better sort of look at it. But it really is tricky to kind of see a lot of definition. It's also against the light, which is not helping at all. What you can see, though, below it is a giraffe head. So while we're kind of hoping that the bird will move, we can discuss giraffes a little bit. You can also see there's a lot of heat haze. So I was saying that it's fairly warm in the sun today, and it's probably the warmest day we've had in the last week. And that will make things probably a lot drier, which is good for us. But the problem with heat is it often brings about a lot more sort of torrential downpours in terms of rain. And so, you know, I'm hoping that we don't get rained on this afternoon, except that I do want the olololos to start moving. Oh, tricky. Kathy, exactly. So you'll often see bark spiders. They use ballooning quite regularly when they build their webs across roads. So they'll often use ballooning to do that, and that will attach then to the other one from one side of the road to the other, and that will allow them to then kind of develop that web and be able to spin it. And you'll often come across it at night, and it should be a good time of year for bark spiders. Now that we've had a bit of rain, the guys should start seeing them early in the morning. You'll often come across them, or just as it's the sun, or just after the sun is set, you'll find them. And it's amazing how fast those bark spiders are able to spin their webs. All right, well, we'll leave our eagle there. It's unfortunately not decided to fly. I'm going to keep an eye out where the lions are, not far, so hopefully it flies towards us at some point. Maybe some of you got some screenshots. And maybe we can figure it out. I don't know. Let's try and see what we can do. There's unfortunately no road that goes any closer, so we're a bit hamstrung in that regard. But it sounds like David is also doing a spot of birding, and he's found something delightful to show you.
Well, from one maybe raptor to another raptor, but I'm sure at one point we are going to establish which bird that is, and screenshots will make us maybe sit tonight during dinner, and we're gonna compare notes and find out who she is. But we have one here that is an eagle that's in black and white. You do not mistake the secretary bird for any other bird. She's very unique in every shape and form. How she is designed, her body morphology basically, she's very different from all the other birds. Well, I call her the ground eagle as much as she's now on top of a torchwood tree. And she's one of the most beautiful birds of that size that I would say. I don't know what Archie thinks, whether it could be a favorite for him, but eagles of this size, this is my favorite one. And they tend to spend most of their time on the ground. But we are now more convinced than ever before that they got a nest there. Sharon, how are you today? And you're saying you adore Secretary Bird. I agree with you 100%. It could not be anything better. Sharon, think of this bird when she walks on the ground. I'm sure you've seen her on the ground. They're very majestic when they walk. And the feathers, how they stick out behind their heads. And you see that tail feather there? It is very unique. It doesn't remind me of the peacock, because when she got her wings out, she doesn't look like a peacock. But that tail, when the tail feathers, when they're out, they make her very, very good looking. Well, she's an eagle, as I said earlier, and she spends most of the time feeding on the ground, and we call her the secretary bird, which I think is Arabic, French corruption of Arabic secrétaire, which means a hunter's bird. So many birds will eat snakes, just like exactly what Tristan had, but these ones, to me, are experts in eating snakes. Not experts as snakes being the main diet, but is how they kill them. You'll see them tramping on snakes, They have a skill on how they bring down the snakes. They walk very majestically in the grass, and the moment they spot one, you see them leap just like that, like a savo cat, step on it and using the other foot, and ding, 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 and they kill it. And interestingly, more often than not, they'll always swallow this snake's life. Well, there were two on that tree. Let me see if we could be lucky to see the other one. And as I found out whether there could be two or the visuals could be good, we'll take you back to South Africa, to Sydney, who got some very huge mammoths.
So the eels are now starting to come out to the clear space. You can see that they are not deep in the thick bushes anymore, but they are still concentrating on some of the thorny trees. Now they are feeding on one of the Vachelia, which is the acacia. This is the biggest I have seen so far, and not very far away there is even a little one. This one might be the female, which is nursing the little ones. If you look at the trunk when it's trying to pick up some leaves, you will see that this trunk does not have the knobs. Sometimes elephants, you will see the trunk having some kind of knobs on it. When it's having the knobs, it is a sign of a milk deficiency. Normally, you will see those kind of knobs by the small ones. if the mother dies when having a lactating small one, if that small one is not going to get a lot of milk, you will see the milk deficiency in the sign of the symptoms will be the knobs on the trunk. So, but elephants, they are so very social in such a way that the other lactating females can also nurse the little one when the mother is dead. So the little ones, they are going to be, Lisa, the elephants, they eat quite a lot. The elephants eat approximately 400 kilograms a day. And from the 400 kilograms they eat, they're only just going to digest 48%. And 48% is too little. So that is why the insects, my favorite insects such as the dung beetles, they prey on elephant dung because there is quite a lot of whole nutrients available in their droppings. So their droppings looks very much green, and if you open them, not finally digested and rich in terms of water. So if you check there, you will see that I can say that is true. It is quite a lot. So it's a sign to us that elephants needs quite a lot of vegetation to survive. So it is punishing the elephants, having the elephants in the area which is not having a lot of trees and a lot of grass for them to eat. So, and they drink 150 to 200 liters a day. So it's not only about the trees, there must also have to be quite a lot of water availability so that they can be able to digest the trees nicely. Some people will tell you elephant has got a poor digestive system, but I don't think they've got a poor digestive system. That is how they digest. They've got to defecate after every 45 minutes. So every 45 minutes, you will see the droppings coming out. So that is clear that they do digest the food, and this food has to come out after a very short period. So you can see now it's time to eat the grass. Child of the universe. Fortunately, the thorns by the trees don't really affect the elephants. The inner parts of the elephant mouth is adapted to eat these kind of thorn trees. So thorns are nothing compared to the spines. Elephants eat the sickle bush. Sickle bush is a spined tree. A spine is that modified stem which has got some of the leaves growing on them and is very hard. Sometimes you can even punch your tires by driving over the elephant dungs. That is how strong the spine is. So it's not ideal at all to drive over the elephant dungs. But apart from running away from the thorns and the spines, by this time of the year, after the heavy rainy season, the dung beetles are back. And some of the dung beetles, they feed from underneath the droppings. And as I have indicated earlier, they prefer the elephant dungs. And because of that, they stay underneath the elephant dung droppings. So you must have to avoid driving over the elephant dungs by all means. Otherwise, you are going to kill the significant insects such as dung beetles, who are here in order to facilitate a lot of decomposition in the bush. So you can see that a very big animal can easily hide behind these bushes. So now let's cross over to the Masai Mara, where David is waiting also to take over.
Well, very good, Sydney. And talking of dung beetles, I have always noticed dung beetles prefer more buffalo poo to make the balls, or the dung balls, than maybe elephant dung. I don't know what Sydney might think. We have gotten ourselves a small herd of buffaloes here, and they're taking advantage of the grass now, having all the migration or all the wildebeest gone back to Serengeti National Park in Tanzania. This is the African buffalo. It's a herd of males and females together.
So you can see that these elephants are slowly moving much more towards our side. I can see that some of these head members are slowly making their way in. It's just that they are being kept busy by these trees. They are getting excited with the nutritious trees. So I'm just going to try and pull forward a little bit as the big one is now approaching a nice and very clear space. So we're going to have a good sighting from there. Here they are, nice and close. So you can see that they're just coming from the mud bath. A child of the universe. The trees is just that a lot of people, they give different terms when it comes to the chemicals produced by these trees. Some will tell you the trees, they release a tree phenol in order to regulate browsing. Some will tell you they produce something called a proanthocyanidin. And some will tell you the tree produces a tannin. All these things, they serve a same purpose, which is regulation of the browsing activities on these trees. So you can see that now these elephants are feeding on the grasses, not only specifically feeding on trees. So it's a confirmation of a fact that elephants are bulk feeders. They are not even taking the grasses completely from the ground. Sometimes when there's a shortage of food availability, you will see them taking the whole plant and shake it in order to get rid of the sand before they take the grass to the mouth. But now they're just taking the top part, every time taking the top part, which is something good. So this shows that elephants, they do play a significant role when it comes to the stimulation of the growth by the grasses. So now let's cross over to the Masai Mara, where the buffaloes are also having some grasses at the moment.
Very true, Sydney. And there's only one huge difference between buffaloes and elephants when it comes to feeding. The elephants will very easily diversify. And in terms of drought, we have always seen, should say, the two species die because of starvation, elephants may die last. Elephants are able to diversify. From the grass, they'll go to the leaves. From the leaves, they'll go to twigs. From twigs, they'll go to tree barks. And when, situation become very bad, they are also able to dig food for themselves from the ground, which the buffaloes will not be able to do. Now, look on the horizon there, and that is the eastern side of the Mara Triangle, and what we're seeing are very thick and heavy clouds, an indication that it might be a bit stormy much later. But from where we are, so far, I would say so good. As Tristan was saying earlier, we are on the onset of the short trains. In Kenya, I would say in East Africa in general, and the Mara Triangle is not exceptional. So every other day, I would say we have had about 40-60 millimeters of rainfall. That's my guess. And there are a couple of days we have had like a whole 36 hours of rain. Now, that reminds me of June, July, in the middle of the year, when we had very heavy rains. King, that's a very good question. In Kenya, I would say we have two seasons of rainfall. We have the short rains and the long rains. And apart from that, we normally have, I would say, summer all around the year. long rains are over and they ended around June, July. What we have now are the short rains. But I would say the weather patterns in the last few years in Africa have been quite erratic. What I would call short rains might turn out to be very big rains. I mean, yesterday I was out in the drive in the afternoon and I got stuck for a couple of minutes. Not because of the rain of yesterday, but just because of the mud. The kind of geology here, we have what we call the black cotton soil, and when it rains, it becomes very sticky. So me and Tristan, when we drive, we have to be very careful. Well, I'm not going to wait for the rains to come, and I'm not sure whether this toppy is aware that rains are coming. What I'd want us to go, or we would want Tristan to show us some lions before maybe the storms arrive.
Yes, we have found exactly what we were hoping for. And look at that, she's going to walk right past us. So she's going to walk within a few meters, which is my favorite thing when lions do this. She should be walking probably, I would say, within about a meter of where we are. But you can see that she is looking thin. So food is going to be high up on the list of priorities for that lioness. And I wonder if now with the rain and the wind just starting, that this is going to be the start of them starting to wake up and moving and trying to go. The problem is the rest of them are all fast asleep. As you can see, that's one of the young boys that's taking a nap at the moment. Hopefully he is going to be able to wake up soon and we'll be able to see what whether or not they are actually going to wake up properly and decide to move. But you can see very fast asleep. Now he's got a slightly fuller belly. I'm sure that's still from the buffalo that they had a few days ago. They finished that buffalo 2 days ago. So as far as we know, they haven't eaten since then, unless they ate something very small, which is possible. They could have eaten something like an impala or maybe something like a warthog, a small warthog. So they haven't had a big meal though, as far as we know. And that means that these guys will in all likelihood, given the size of the pride, will want to probably try and find some semblance of food. I'm just trying to see where she's going at the moment. So she's on the road walking. But before we get into that, right, I had a quick sort of thing. Just hold on, Manu, sorry, let me just try to sort this out because I've got the wrong thing on here. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is that eagle, what it's supposed to look like in flight, right? So this is what the image, when I search images, that's in flight. Now we managed to, while we were kind of doing things, managed to get one in flight. So that's a shot that I got of this bird in flight, the one we just saw taking off. And to me, they look very, very, very similar. And so I think it is actually one of a very special eagles. So that should be a lifer for many of you. I'll make 100% sure and send it off just to double check, but I think that we managed to find the bird that we were looking for, which is, how cool is that, considering we were talking about it. It doesn't happen like that very often, and it's happened to me twice this week. Last week, early on in the week, I said it would be a nice place to find a rufous-bellied heron, and we got a rufous-bellied heron, and then we talked about the snake eagle, and we got that too. But the lioness is walking, so enough about our snake eagle, which I'm excited about. It's always nice when you get to see a lifer as a guide. You don't get to see them all the time, and especially when you get to spend a lot of time in the bush, life has become fewer and fewer and fewer and harder to come by. So Project Alpha says you are convinced that's the one. Thank you, exclamation point, absolute pleasure. Very, very cool that we can actually confirm and we can have that. I would like to know from some of you, particularly those that have kept extensive Mara lists, what number it is for you guys. I know a lot of you do keep bird lists, and it's always nice that you do. I find it very cool that you do. It's a special thing that you can say that you've seen this many birds on cameras in Africa, which is very cool. So I would like to know from all of you.
Apologies for the inconveniences on behalf of the team. The signals are bad at the moment by the Masai Mara, but it will come back soon. Now I am heading much more towards the Buffalo's Hook Dam just to go and see if we cannot find any of the spotted cat in the area. My specific target is Hosanna. I have seen Hosanna yesterday. I'm just going to take it from previous. He just went towards the Torchwood and he was doing some hunting. Maybe we might be lucky around the Buffalo's Hook Dam area. So he was coming from this area yesterday afternoon, and we escorted him all the way down from the Buffalo's Dam to the fire break. So I have not yet picked up the tracks of any of these spotted cats at the moment, neither the lions nor the leopards yet. So now let's quickly go back to the Masai Mara and carry on from previous. My apologies again. There is a challenge to do with the network this afternoon. So let's see what we are going to find here by the Buffalo's Hook Dam. So you can hear the woodland kingfisher is giving us a warm welcome to the dam. So that was quite a lovely call from the woodland kingfisher. Oh, more elephants here where we are at the moment, and this elephant has got some small babies. So the elephants are moving much more towards the side where we are. You will see they've got some small babies there. Look at that tiny little baby. It's underneath. The mom is crossing just underneath. You can see it's too small. Can be able to pass in between the legs, between the front and the hind legs. So maybe it's time now for the little one to have something to drink. So elephant is one of those animals which can giraffe girl, the elephants, they don't choose the trees, but some of the trees, elephants, I never saw them eating. Trees such as the euphorbia trees. The euphorbia trees are those kind of species of trees which has got a very high milk production. So when the tree is secreting quite a lot of latex is that milk coming from the leaves. Elephants, they do avoid those kind of trees. And apart from that, elephant don't like the chilies. They don't like the pepper chilies because of what is called a capsaicin molecule, a molecule which gives a chili a hot sensation. Elephants can be able to pick it up from a distance and avoid those kind of trees. And sometimes they even avoid those kind of areas. So you can see that these elephants, they look wet a little bit, which is a sign that they have been to the waterhole. Maybe the mud is from here where we have just arrived, the Buffalo's Hook Dam. If not from here, it means it's from, oh, look at that tiny little one there. So if it's not from here, it means it's from one of the waterholes they have created. Elephants, they are very good when it comes to the creation of the natural waterholes. Look at that little one there. So elephants are very peaceful animals, but when the little ones are still small and when they've got injuries, when the bull is on mast, is when they can be very much dangerous. So that little one is very much small. But the little one at the moment is relying on the mother for feeding purposes. Until they get to 3 years is when they are going to start feeding by themselves. But from the head to remain with the other ones, they've got to live until they are 16 years. After 16 years is then that the little ones are going to become independent. So it's normally when it comes to us humans, 18 years is when we are starting to become independent. So the elephants, they're just doing it 2 years before that. MW, chilies is something which can, but chilies is also very much important. Where I come from in Venda, we strongly believe that eating quite a lot of chilies will fight against flu. It will also help you against the flu. So in other words, you can use chilies for medicinal purpose. So these animals, the elephants are one of those species which can be able to regurgitate water. If you look at the elephant here, on the mouth pass, the lower jaw, after the lower jaw, they've got a space like this. This is a spharengia pouch. Spharengia pouch is what is used in order to collect water. And when hearing the elephants making that sound of the spharengia pouch is the one which amplifies that sound. That sound is not directly coming from the stomach. It is coming from here. Tristan is already lucky with one of the cats. He's got the lions at the moment, and let's go see them by the Masai Mara.
Indeed, I am lucky, Sydney, because we have the most epic backdrop with our pride of lions. We've managed to find a few more of them that were kind of in this area. So the female was walking, and so we thought we'd come to this side, and we can actually see a whole lot that have just popped their heads up in front of us. I didn't even know half of them were there, but in front, next to that mound, as you can see, is a whole bunch of them that we had no idea that were even around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them that are sitting over there at least. There might even be more. So that's a lot of the sub-adults. Doesn't look like any adult females within that group, I don't think. And they're all just kind of having a bit of a look. But the storm is blowing in, and you can see the lions are a lot more awake than when we first got here. Now, if you look at this storm, what's going to happen is this should sweep in kind of and come along this escarpment. It often does. So it often comes along the escarpment here, and it starts to then kind of rain along here. And if it does that, well, then the conditions are right for lions, because one is there's going to be wind, which is going to make it very difficult for things like zebra or waterbuck or giraffe, which are all around this area, warthogs, to hear anything. The other thing is that you're going to get rain, which makes it very difficult to see, and so the lions then utilize that to their advantage. It also gets a lot darker, and so they blend in a little bit better, and that could be the perfect kind of thing for them. I'm just sad in some respects is that buffalo herd is not still milling around. I'm sure it's the same herd that David has gotten. They must have gone back down towards the marsh area, and it's a bit of a shame, because in these conditions, I think these lions would have had a crack at those buffalo, and it would have been a really interesting kind of development and watching how they would have gone about it. Given that there's a lot of sub-adults here, I would have been intrigued to watch them try and hunt buffalo, because I think it would have been a tough assignment for them. But isn't that beautiful? The light is seriously amazing. There's also a little bit of a rainbow that's just starting to develop now. So hopefully what we're going to get is we're going to get the typical kind of line in the open grassland, the big tree, and then the storm in the background with a bit of a rainbow forming. Wouldn't that be quite a spectacular kind of image? I hope that's what happens, because I think it's absolutely beautiful. That kind of image right there, for me, is always an image of East Africa and its kind of lure that it often has had. But you can see the little male that's kind of walking off now. But what you will notice with him too is also in need of food again. It's amazing how fast they digest. You wouldn't expect these guys to have killed 2 buffalo this week and still be in the shape that they're in. You would have thought that they would have had nice big round tummies, but it just goes to show how quickly these guys can digest buffalo when they have fed on it. So hopefully this afternoon, and our gamble to come here this afternoon, will pay off. So Child of the Universe, it is a big pride. It's 16 in total without the coalition males that are the ones that produce these cubs. And it's the Olololo or Ngama pride. We used to call it the Ngama pride, but most of the guides here call it the Olololo pride, which is the name of this escarpment that's in the background. So it provides the perfect backdrop for where they are. And what you'll probably find is I have a funny feeling that these guys are not going to hunt their way into the reserve. I think they're going to hunt their way up the escarpment, which obviously means we're not going to be able to follow them too far, but let's see how it plays out. I'm just going to catch up with those guys there for you, Manu, so you're not right on the longest end of your lens. Hopefully the rest of them will slowly start to kind of come through. The rainbow is developing nicely, which is great news, so we should get a really nice rainbow and lion sort of storm. Be nice. All right, guys. One of you needs to sit on top of the mound now so that I can get you out of the grass. It will be a treat, Emma. Don't worry. We're going to line it up so that we can get this right. Because I don't know how long our rainbow is going to last. So let's try now while we've got it visible. I don't know if you guys can actually see it. It's very faint in the background there. So kind of going over the left-hand line is where that rainbow will roughly be. There it is there. So Manu's trying to kind of get it. It's not bright, but hopefully it will brighten up and strengthen a little bit. And then don't you think it will be absolutely beautiful to have rainbow, lions in the long grass, and that storm just kind of going across the plains? I think it will be a wonderful kind of way to spend our afternoon. I thoroughly am looking forward to hopefully watching them go about their business. Exactly, that will do. But you can see they're definitely a lot more alert than what we had when we finished drive this morning. It's exactly what we thought they would do. It's just kind of rest up, and now when the weather starts to turn with the heat that we had today, it was bound to happen and start to now come into, you know, their own and start to think about finding food and looking for any sort of sustenance that they can eat. So Kathy, in Djuma you see them going for shelter very quickly. There's waterbuck right up on the ridge that they probably are watching at the moment. So in Djuma you'll find they'll get under a thicket and they'll just kind of curl up in there. Here in the Mara, sometimes the nearest tree is quite far away, and so sometimes they just tough it out. They just sit there and they get pelted, or they'll try and get to the nearest big tree, in which case they'll kind of get under and they'll just lie there. And I mean, they still get wet. There's really very little in the way of cover for a lot of the cats out here. They, unfortunately, unless they're very close to a forested section, they're going to just get wet. And the problem with being in the forested areas is that those are very prone to a flash flooding effect, and so it's actually not the great place for them to be either. So they just have to be tough and take it, and they're so used to it, these lions. I mean, they've been getting hit by rain for most of their lives. Now you'll see the last two that we left all the way back down there where we first started, they're on their way. So that's the young male and the little young female, and they're kind of moving up towards us as well at the moment, which is good. So the whole pride should come together. Now if you want to know where the kind of Kichwa male is, he's pretty much directly across from where we are now, so just on the other side of the forest. So if you look at those guys just on the other side of the forest area, that's where the Kichwa male is at the moment. We saw a whole bunch of cars there and I could see him through my binos when we drove past, but I wanted to come to the side just to make sure these guys hadn't gone there as well. Now sorry Emma, if you can just repeat the name for me. The wind is howling and I got the escarpment and animals living there, but I didn't get the name, so if you can repeat that. Deadly Spunky. That is quite the Twitter handle, or handle whichever one it is on YouTube or Twitter. But Deadly Spunky, do any animals live on the escarpment? So primarily on the escarpment, not too many. You'll find eland, reedbuck, like it up there quite a bit. They spend a lot of time there, although they do come down. The lions go up there a lot, leopard up there a lot, zebras up and down, elephants at night love the escarpment but then come down during the day. See, what else do we see going up and down? Impalas up and down a lot. Baboons, they love it here, so this is a great place for baboons. They've got thickets where they can roost, then along the escarpments to feed during the day. And I'm pretty sure you'll find very small animals. I'm pretty sure there's certain mouse species that will probably exclusively live just up in the rocky sections on the escarpment itself. Lots of different types of birds that you see up there, so, or down into these forested sections. There we go. You see, we just have to talk and they will listen eventually. Puma dik, exactly, they'll be up there. There's two that live very close to our camp, funny enough, and you can see them most days if you look out for them. So they're up, and then like I say, a few reptiles, a few different types of birds. There's actually a really beautiful snake that occurs up here that is called a Jamison's mamba. So we get a black mamba, and there's one called a Jamison's, which is a beautiful greenish colored snake, very, very pretty, and they occur in these forested sections up on the escarpment as well. So it's a great place to actually find them. It's obviously very dangerous, but a very pretty snake. What else is up in these areas? There have been reports in the sort of forested sections of the escarpment of giant forest hog, but I mean, I don't know. I think that's a bit of a push, a little bit. Now, sorry, what is that, Manu? You want to get a 2-shot? Sure, no problem. Let me get Manu into a good place. So Manu, I like working with Manu because Manu's really creative when we're out here. He likes to get really epic imagery and is constantly looking for nice ways to kind of show off all the animals that we see on a regular basis, and new kind of techniques, and often comes up with some very, very cool concepts. So it's always cool to work with Manu because he often likes to do things differently, and he will ask and try and point things out, which really helps to be able to get visuals like that, where we can watch the oncoming members moving towards the rest of the pride. Isn't that cool? So you can see them kind of striding towards the one up on the mound. So well done, Manu. Very good eyes there and good thinking. But I'm glad they went up the mound. They listened to us. So we said to them they need to go up and sit on top there because we want the storm in the background and we want them. And now the others approaching has just made it even that much better. Very, very cool shot, that. Hear a bit of thunder in the background as well. Absolutely amazing. How cool is this shot? This is very cool. Manu is a real artist, you're right. He, like I say, is very good with this kind of stuff. I thoroughly enjoy a lot of his footage that I've seen. I mean, I obviously haven't worked with him as much as I probably would like to, and I would like to one day see Manu and Archie and James all come down to South Africa and start and do some filming of leopards and various other things. But Manu definitely has a good way with the camera and incredibly fast with it. He's taken a leaf out of Liam and Brian's book. I don't know why I said Liam. Liam and Brian's book, but as to kind of pace of movement with the camera, and so obviously some of the cheetah hunts that Manu's filmed are next level. So very, very cool. And we're fortunate. I mean, all of our cam ops have their strengths. They're all very good at what they do, and as much as we give them a lot of trouble, they are a professional bunch. They generally are the first guys on the vehicles. Things are always done well, and they really do strive to make sure that they bring you the best images. And I can promise you, because we do reviews and various other things, that they are as hard on each other and themselves as anybody could imagine. And so, they really do try to give you guys the best that we can possibly get, given that it's a very difficult thing that they're doing. You must remember that most documentaries that you guys are watching, the cameramen are not having to worry at all about doing a live show. They are having to just sit on the side of a car. Generally the cars are built perfectly for filming, and they're able to kind of get the camera as low as possible, and they sit there and they have nobody moving the car. It's just them normally. They don't have to worry about anything. Now our cameramen have a camera that's probably not in the most ideal place for filming of wildlife. It's great for the way we do our safari, but obviously not in the way of filming wildlife. And on top of that, they've got these hooligan guides that move around and will shake and make their shots unsteady from time to time and really just cause havoc. So they have a tough time with us, and we're very lucky that we do have the guys that we do. So well done to all of our cam ops. I don't think they get enough of a pat on the back at times, that's for sure. Anyway, how cool was that? That was very, very cool. Manu, you did well. You can see the storm is now coming across, and we're going to get hit soon. If you're looking straight ahead of us, it's quite nice because you can actually see the sort of edge of the rain. There on the sort of edge of the hill as it's coming down, you can see how the hill is slowly but surely disappearing as the rain is coming towards us. So we will probably have to drop covers shortly, but in the meantime, let's send you back down to Sydney and see how he's getting on.
So I am now heading much more towards the Chitwa area. I am driving just by the border between us and the Torchwood, which is the area where Hosanna went to yesterday. So I'm trying to check if he is back at the property or still by the Torchwood side. but I have not yet picked up any convincing evidence about him going in or out. I didn't copy the question clearly. If you can repeat that, Emma. Alicia, I am live from the western side of the Greater Kruger National Park now. So the show, it is an interactive live safari. As I'm talking now, you can talk to me. It's happening now. So let's hope to see Hosanna. That is also my hope for this afternoon. And this is the area where I have seen Hosanna disappearing to the Torchwood. And I've also met a hyena yesterday coming towards the same direction. You know, the hyenas, I am using them for orientation and navigation of the spotted cat these days. So now I'm just going to carry on and make a turn by the Chitwa waterhole and see if we cannot find any of the cat or any of the interesting animals in that area. I'll come back later on here and listen. Maybe we might hear Tingana sowing, or we might be lucky and come across the fresh tracks of Hosanna. The weather is now getting better, it's getting cool, which is going to obviously encourage Hosanna to do some hunting, as yesterday we left him hunting, unless he already got a kill at the moment. But he was so hungry yesterday afternoon, so I'm sure maybe already he got something small or something big. And if it's something big towards the Torchwood, it's going to be difficult for me to see him for a couple of days. So let's hope he caught something on our side. So there's quite a lot of impalas in the area where we are at the moment. A lot of impalas in the area, and when there's too much impalas like this, it gives me a lot of confidence that the spotted cat might be around. So we might be lucky, as per your request, and see the hyenas. I will also try and visit the den maybe during the final stage of the game drive. We do see cheetahs, called 6 here in Juma. It's just that the sightings for those kind of beautiful cats are very much rare, but we do see them. So I just want to check some tracks here. Craig, my professional camera operator, spotted something. I just want to see what is it that he has just spotted now. So he has just spotted some lion tracks. I just want to confirm where these tracks are heading to. Maybe we can be able to see these tracks from here. So there is some lion tracks somewhere here, and we're just gonna try and go to the nearest waterhole, which is the Chitwa. Maybe we might be lucky when we get there. Otherwise, I've got to come back and carry on by the Juma side. Niconico viewer, the lions, they've got a very good eyesight, both during the daytime and at night. Those kind of animals at night can see very well. What helps the animals which are much more active during the night to see well is the following. If you look at the lions, not only the lions, together with the leopards and other cats, sometimes dogs as well, you will see they've got the whiskers here. Those whiskers are called vibrissae. Those whiskers are not there just for decoration. They are there to serve a very significant purpose because they are connected with the brain. They can be able to pick up what is coming in front and measure the space in within the trees as they are walking at night. So those whiskers are connected with the nervous coordination, which then which is getting the message from the brain in order to alert the animal about the surrounding at night. And some birds as well, they do have those kind of whiskers. It's just that they are not called whiskers by the birds. So we are now slowly approaching the Chitwa waterhole. You can see right in the middle of the road, we have got the Egyptian goo, which is serving as a big sign that we are not far away from the waterhole. So there is an Egyptian goo now. It's a few of them crossing to the bushes there. They're just about few meters away from the waterhole. Maybe it's approximately a kilo. So they are leading us to the Chitwa waterhole at the moment, where we are hoping to see something interesting this afternoon. So it's nice to hear the Egyptian goose has just led by one small water point. But this is not the Chitwa waterhole where they are. I will show you where they are. Just here they are. Now those kind of areas where we're seeing, you can see they're leaving a small water point there. That water point probably has been designed by the elephant. That's why that water point does not have a shape, because elephants, when they come, they don't worry about the shape of the water point. What they do is to dig the ground, and the ground starts collecting water, and they come for mud wallowing. A rhino come to the very same area. Warthogs, you'll see them there, and suddenly this is going to be a very big natural water hole. So naturally, animals, they do try and create their own water holes. It's just that the water holes which are dug by the animals don't necessarily meet the requirements for predation, because predation needs quite a lot of thick bushes nearby so that they can be able to hide when the animals are coming to drink. So when it's done naturally like this, you can see it's much more open. At least there is a termite mound here and some of the trees which can assist some of the predators to come and wait for it.
Back, everybody. Sorry that we have a few gremlins. Unfortunately, the way things are with storms on this side, and there's a few issues in Djuma, but we have the most epic scene. Look at this. Isn't that everything that you could have asked for? You've got a rainbow, lions at the bottom of it, big tree on the right, East Africa right there spoiling us better than we could ever imagine. Is that not sensational? I think so. I think it's possibly one of the most kind of epic sort of scenes I've seen in quite some time. So really beautiful, and we're fortunate that the rainbow is just kind of somehow lined up exactly with this lion that's on top of this mound. So we've been spoilt in this regard, and I'm super excited that we managed to actually get it live, because I was a bit worried at one point. I thought maybe, just maybe, we were going to have a bit of an issue and that we weren't going to get it right, but we've managed somehow to sort everything out, well, our tech geniuses have, and so we're back with you. Now, Emma has suggested a very good idea, that it's probably a good time for a one-word tweet as to what you think of that image right there. I think it's pretty spectacular, so I want to know from you guys what your one-word tweet is for that. Yes, Emma, sometimes you have moments of brilliance, and now again you guys see that there's a second rainbow forming as well, so it's not just one rainbow, there's actually two of them that are forming, which is quite something. We, like I say, are being spoiled by the fact that we have that kind of shot right there, and it's everything I was hoping it would be. I was really kind of hoping that we were going to get a really epic sky and then one of them on the mound. I didn't quite expect to get a beautiful rainbow as strong as colored as that, but you know, you risk it, you gamble it, and that's what you kind of get. For me, that's absolutely beautiful. Andy, you say, wow, double rainbow, lion, cuddle, puddle. I agree, isn't it something? And the noise of the storm as well, while we're kind of sitting here. So far, we haven't got wet. Pretty sure we're about to get absolutely drenched. Manu and I have risked it. We've decided we're going to go for the risk, and we're going to keep the rain covers off for now. I'm pretty sure we're going to probably not be very impressed with ourselves just now when we have to scramble when the rain really does come down, but it seemed like a worthwhile risk, doesn't it? I don't know, what do you guys think? Davo, you say awesomeness? Yes, well, there's not very much else you can say about something like this, is there? It is awesomeness at its very best, for me at least. I think it's very cool. I'm thoroughly thrilled that we managed to get it for you guys more than anything else. Like I say, I was getting a bit kind of stressed because I was thinking, sure, with the kind of gremlins and lions on a mound and rainbows, that doesn't really exactly last all that long, and so we're going to cut it fine in terms of being able to show you, but somehow, some way, all pulled together and we ended up with what we wanted, which is perfect. So very fortunate to have gotten that. Now hopefully we'll get one more that will kind of go up onto the mound. You can see everyone's kind of looking around and sort of listening. And Jeremy, you say magical? Yes, and you can see why it's called the magical Mara, isn't it? When you get scenes like that from time to time, it gives you an idea of why it gets given that name, that's for sure. It really is a special place when these kind of things happen. From a scenery point of view, you know, Djuma's got many amazing things about it. From a scenic point of view, though, I don't know if it quite compares to the Mara in terms of just the vistas that you get. There's parts of Djuma that are pretty, but not quite as pretty as this, because often in Djuma you get very obscured when it comes to a storm like this, and the rainbows and all that kind of stuff, whereas here you've just got such clean view that kind of goes out that it really is quite spectacular. So very fortunate to be able to kind of bring these to you, and it complements Djuma so nicely, I think, in many respects, because of its kind of open nature. It's predator rich, it's predators that we don't see maybe as much at Djuma, that it really allows us to kind of work hand in hand with that, and I like the combination of the two. I think they provide balance, which is nice. I mean, I know a lot of you are uber Djuma fans and not so much Tom say great job getting the lions to cooperate. Well, it wasn't me really. It's all thanks to Manu making us move. It's the only reason I saw it is because actually we were sitting here, and then it just started to kind of develop, and we just slightly positioned ourselves better, and we managed to kind of get it right. So we can actually thank Manu for all of this. He was the one that got this all kind of into the right space. But for me, that was absolutely beautiful. I'm hoping the way the wind is blowing, we might just squeak out of this and get lucky and not get wet. I somehow don't think it's going to happen, but you never know. We might get lucky here. It seems to be blowing across us slightly rather than towards us. Ellie, as you can see, petrified. They are nervous. No, the lions here are so used to thunder and lightning. You can see they're not too stressed. I think if a crack of lightning had to hit right here next to us and you know, be very close to them, yes, they would probably jump and run a little bit. But you must remember, like I say, for them this is par for the course. Almost daily you get these thunderstorms like this somewhere in the Mara. So these guys get quite used to the fact that rain is part and parcel of their life, and so you'll find that they're not that phased by it. You can see half of them are still sleeping. They're not even actually worried too much about thunder and lightning, and we can hear a lot of thunder and lightning already coming our way. So, oh, there's some giraffe as well. Isn't that pretty? There's some giraffe that are coming from behind the lions at the moment. Roxy, they are my pots of gold. Now, wouldn't it be something? Now, we're going to throw this out there because why not? We're living the dream as it is. What if these giraffe walk behind the lions? Rainbow, giraffe, lions. Like in a little Constantine effect. I think that'll be pretty something. I think it'll be really, really nice. That'll be winning, I think. Exactly, something from the Lion King. The problem is that the rain is going to start. So what I might do is actually just turn us around, so that what I can do is have the back flaps and one side down, and we can still watch what goes on, because the storm will come in from the left. So if I'm the way that I am, I'm going to have a bit of a trouble to get it right. So just give me 2 seconds just to turn around quickly, and then I can drop one side and we won't have too much of an issue. So I do apologize. Right, so while we do that and while we sort ourselves out, I'm going to send you quickly across to Sydney and see how he's doing battling his gremlins. Hopefully he's going to get it right.
I am still looking for these spotted cats here. I am now just around the Chitwa doing trekking by all means, but still no sign of any of these leopards in this area. So where I am is a suitable area for trekking, but I am not seeing any evidence here showing that these cats has been here. So I'm just trying to investigate one of the tracks here, but I saw it was a track from one of the dogs. So the only animal I'm seeing at the moment here is the guinea fowls. Let's see, the guinea fowls are also having something to eat here at the moment. So the guinea fowls, they nest on the ground, but for safety, you will see them high up by the trees. So look at what these guinea fowls are doing. That's why their group of guinea fowls is called a confusion. You can see they're just running everywhere, confusing at the moment. With the spots on their feathers, this helps them in order to confuse their predators. They also do get predated. Sometimes big cats, such as the leopards, do predate this kind of birds. So you can see they can run very fast. Look at that. So by this time of the year is when the guinea fowls are having the tapeworms. We can eat the guinea fowls. We just got to be very careful, because by the month with letter R is when they've got quite a lot of tapeworms in the stomach. So eating the guinea fowls by this time of the year can jeopardize you when it comes to the tapeworms. Mrs. Lepwing, the guinea fowls are so pretty. You can see they are joined by a hammerkop. So the hammerkop is somewhere on the right side there. So they are both feeding together. So guinea fowls are some of those birds which will always give you an alarm call. And then it's very easy to distinguish their call from the rest of the birds. They don't have same call. They've got different kind of calls. And when they're not happy about something, they are going to be vocal, making use of a very unique call. Francis, the guinea fowls, the eggs, they are good to eat because these kind of birds, quite a lot of African tribes, they do eat their eggs. So their eggs are not bad to eat. We can eat them. So now let's cross over to the Masai Mara, where Tristan is having one of the tallest animals.
I do indeed. I've got the tallest of the tall that have moved in, and they're just watching proceedings with the lions at the moment. They are not too stressed though, because you can see the lions, well, they haven't even noticed the giraffe yet, I don't think. So it's all just a case of them having a bit of a nap. Everybody's fairly relaxed at this stage, and I don't think in all likelihood these lions would hunt these giraffe, just given the fact that there's not really any young giraffe there. Those are all quite large. If there was a small baby, then yes, then I think we might see, you know, the lions get a little bit more kind of interested. But with just the size of those giraffe, I think they'll watch them, but I don't think they'll actually have a real go at them, to be honest. Isn't it beautiful though? You can see the giraffe have seen the lions. They're fully aware that there are lions around, and that's why they're just slowly kind of walking along, making sure that there's no others that are close by every now and then. Gazpacho, difficult to know how many times they hunt a week, because it is variable. Some weeks they'll hunt a lot more, some weeks a lot less. So when the migration is here, sometimes they'll kill indiscriminately and kill 6, 7, 8, 9 wildebeest a night for the whole week. Other times, like now, they might have a lean week where they only get a buffalo and that lasts them for the entire week. So it's difficult to say, but generally what we, from kind of statistically speaking, every sort of 3 days is what we'll see from these guys in terms of actual hunting. And well, I mean, in terms of meal, if you had to average it all out, 3-ish days, but sometimes more, sometimes less. For me, you know, lions are animals that will hunt whenever the opportunity comes their way. So, and a big pride like this probably hunts more regularly than others because there's so many mouths to feed that even if they bring down something like a zebra, they're still going to have to try their best to get more food to be able to sustain everybody. So it just depends on kind of the individual pride and the structures that you have. Very special though what we have witnessed this afternoon, not from a kind of behavioral point of view, but just from a aesthetic point of view, I think is probably the best word for this. For me, it's kind of one of those very, very special sightings in many respects. The light is very, very pretty, isn't it? Now you'll see, look at that. Isn't that special? Very, very cool. Well, I think so. Like I say, I mean, you guys don't have to agree with me, but that's how I think. I think it's as good as it gets. And well worth us coming here, if I'm honest. For me, it's well, at least Sebastian, in certain areas, yes, giraffe are high up on the menu and will be chased by lions regularly. Just depends on the area that the lions live in and what potential food items they possibly face. And so, you know, here there's a lot of other species that they can go after that are potentially easier. Remember, a giraffe is a massive animal and can be dangerous and difficult to get to in open plains like this. Tall, good eyesight can see lions coming when the grass is short like this, and so tricky to get close to them. But in certain areas, for sure, I mean, there's prides. They were in the mountain pride, which was on the sort of eastern side of the Kruger National Park, a little bit north of Sabi Sands if you had to draw a straight line to the Mozambique boundary. The mountain pride, at one point, they were almost 40, I think 42 lions, somewhere there. And they were hunting giraffe almost every day because that was sustaining them, and there was a large population of giraffe. So it really just depends on the animal, depends on the environment that it's in, its food availability. All of those kind of factors will dictate whether giraffe are a key kind of component in a lion's diet. But Manu's doing sterling work. Isn't that quite something? What amazes me about that is that a giraffe is a huge creature, and it is being dwarfed by those skies that we've got this afternoon. So it gives you an idea of just kind of how big the clouds and how kind of open it feels sometimes when you hear. And that's the kind of things that people come a long way to see, is those kind of moments right there. Gary, in terms of how big giraffe groups get, also very variable. Here in the Mara tend to be a little bit larger than what we see from the Djuma kind of groups. Although in the Sabi Sands I have seen a group of 17. Here though tend to be a lot more. Here you tend to see groups of sometimes even as much as 20, which is obviously quite a lot. Now it is starting to rain, so what I want to just do, sorry guys, I've parked a little bit poorly for the rain. I had parked because of the rainbow, but what I'm going to do is just need to turn us down a little bit, because the way that I've got our covers set up, if I have us a little bit more like that, which actually helps Manu and helps him open up the giraffe and the lions a little bit, then we're able to kind of keep the rain from coming on us at all. We don't actually have to worry one bit now, because we've got one side of the car that's completely closed, so as long as the rain doesn't come from the opposite direction, which it shouldn't, given the way it's been coming all afternoon, then we should be okay. Oh, I've just spotted another lioness. Very far in the distance, man. You see her all the way down. Now, I don't know if she's part of the pride, because there was no lions that we saw move in that direction. Way off in the distance, there's a lion that is kind of sitting there watching this grouping, which is interesting. So I wonder, because where we are now could very well be the Owino Pride, the Owino Pride that could be here as well. So it might even be one of them that's around, which is intriguing. So I'm wondering what she's going to do. She's just popped out now that the rain has started to fall. It's definitely none of the members that we saw this morning, because pretty much all of them are accounted for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, although we did have 13 this morning, so maybe actually she's sneaked off and kind of gotten somewhere down that side. But interesting. Shame she's giving herself a little shake because of the rain that's falling. You might be able to hear the rain that's kind of hitting the roof at the moment. Now, the one thing we do have to be very careful of here, which is lightning. So as much as I don't mind rain, lightning is obviously a very big threat. It's also a massive threat to our equipment, so we need to be a bit careful. If the lightning gets any closer, we're going to have to make a bit of a call, but we'll see. So far we're okay. Let's just see how we go. Just a few strikes. Right, well, I'm going to just see how this lightning goes. We'll just see how we kind of pan out, but I'm going to send you across to Sydney, who's still looking for the elusive spots of Djuma.
Now leaving the Chitwa Waterhole area, going back to Djuma, as this side the signs are not here, and we have just seen the signs on the other side of the lions. I want to go and take it from where my camera operator spotted those lion tracks. Maybe our luck is on the Djuma side. So here I have checked all the roads I did a loop around the water hole and there's still no sign of any of the predator. Quite a lot of impalas in the area, so you can see that predators are concentrating much more towards the Juma side than this side of Chitwa. So somewhere here is where we saw those tracks. Barbara, that is what I'm hoping for. I am trying to hit the two birds with one stone, because the very same area where the lion tracks are is where Hosanna got disappeared yesterday. And there's still no sign of Hosanna and no updates on Hosanna since yesterday. So somewhere here is where we have lost the tracks of that lion. Let me just check the ground thoroughly. Call 6, unfortunately, we haven't picked up any buffalo tracks yet. So these lions might be maybe after any kind of a game in the area. Yes, their special preference is the buffaloes, but they do go and hunt for something different. So the tracks are heading much more at that side. Thank you very much. The good news. Maybe I might bring you some good news with these cats. So somewhere here. Thank you. So here where we are, the weather is fine. It's unlike the Mara at the moment. Yes, on our side as well, the weather is building. We might get some rain maybe tonight or tomorrow. Rain is always unpredictable. This morning early, there was a little bit of a shower, and we are hoping for more rain in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So Tristan and my other colleagues in the Masai Mara, they are now in the middle of the rain. So I've got an impala here at the moment. This impala looks very healthy. He's one of the members of this bachelor herd. I am seeing a bachelor herd because all the members I'm seeing here are carrying horns. So impalas, you will see them forming the breeding herds, which is consisted of the females and one breeding male. Is a harem, and you will see them also in bachelor herds. Young ones of the same age, you will see them forming a crash, and some they become part of the nursery herd. This is a nice impala shot, and thank you very much, Craig. Look at those black markings at the back and also the black markings on the hind legs. This is quite a gorgeous animal. So you can see the impala has got the three different... Gary, I agree this is a nice impala. Look at the side of the bodies. You can see those three colors which break these animals into three-dimensional shapes. These confuse the predators the most. You know, the animals, they employ the anti-predatory strategies. Normally, these anti-predatory strategies are part of what is called crypsis, which is just a strategy employed by the animals to avoid detection by the predator. These strategies are not perfect because mostly they can only work when the animal is not moving. Once the animal starts moving, it's going to destroy the strategy and the predator is going to be able to see it. So the animals such as the zebras, those ones are clever because they employ something called a dazzle motion, or it's called a motion dazzle motion, where when they are running is when they are confusing the predators. So they don't use that strategy when they are stationary. When they are running, the stripes dazzles, and when the stripes are doing that, then they give the predator a contradictory directional signals. So they get confused on where this animal is going. And it's always very difficult for a predator to single one out. So now let's cross over to the Masai Mara, where Tristan is enjoying the lions in the rain.
Indeed, we do. The rain is starting to fall, and our poor lions, as you can see, heads are starting to go into that typical lion fashion where they start to droop a little bit and they kind of look through squinted glances, and their ears get sort of tucked in a certain way, and they look very unhappy with life. So that's where we're at the moment. Poor guys are getting rained on, and you can see what we were talking about earlier. Everyone was asking about rain and whether or not they move or do they not like it. You can see it's raining now and they haven't moved at all. So they haven't run to the tree. They just know that it's part and parcel. So they just sit here, they take it, and then they hope that once it's done, they can wake up and start to kind of move around. The lioness that was far in the distance still hasn't joined. I can't see her anymore, but she hasn't arrived here. So that's going to be interesting to see whether or not she does start to move in this direction. And then there still is one lioness that is not with the group at the moment, but the rain is pelting down, and for now these guys are sitting. I think if we had had a buffalo herd here now, I reckon we would have maybe seen some action and seen them starting to try and go after them. They often do hunt buffalo in the rain, but with nothing really around other than those giraffe, which we've discussed is not really on the list for the Olololos as big giraffe go. I mean, if it was a small giraffe maybe. So they're going to, I think, wait it out, and as it gets a little darker and after the rain's gone, then I think we're going to start to see these guys moving about and starting to kind of look for some sort of food, which would be nice. But for now, sleepy. Ladybirds, not that I've ever picked up, to be honest with you. I mean, they do have a slight smell to them, but not as strong as a wet dog. They're not hugely smelly. It's funny, often people think, you know, when you're sitting around lions and all kinds of animals, actually, hyena, lion, wild dogs are smelly, but the rest are not actually smelly at all, unless they've been feeding on an old carcass. Then they take on the smell of the carcass, or they're passing gas, but otherwise they don't smell like wet dog. Well, certainly not strong enough that we can pick up from the vehicle itself. You know, at the moment these cats are probably, I would say, about 10 to 15 meters away from me at the moment. And so, you know, the smell from there to here with the rain, I won't pick it up at all. I'd have to really go close and probably touch it to activate that smell, and maybe then it would have that sort of scent. But from where I'm sitting now and the way that we are, no, not at all. I can't smell any sort of wet dog smell, and I have never smelt it really on lions before. There's maybe a slight kind of, I don't know what the smell is, but it's not wet dog smell. There's a slight smell to it, but it's not what you would think. Often also, remember, when it rains in Africa, you get the smell of soil and things like that, which often overpowers these guys at the distances that we're at. I think if we had to, like I say, go and rub up on them, we'd probably get that smell a lot more. The pitter-patter of rain, a typical Mara afternoon, that's for sure. Quite lucky that we can actually sit and still film in this, because this is quite tricky conditions for a lot of for Juma, and even if the lightning starts, then unfortunately we have to shut it down. But for now we're all good. Marcy, Well, you ask a question that's unfortunately only one person can really kind of attest to, and that is, well, he is the only one out of all of our presenters to have seen wild dogs in the Masai Mara. So yes, they are here. There's a pack that's in Tanzania and a pack that's in northern conservancies of the Mara, and sometimes, very, very rarely, do they make an appearance in the Triangle. And after 2 years of being here, basically, or a year and 8 months, if you want to call it that, Wally was the one that actually got the wild dogs running up the escarpment, which he was very excited about, and I thought he did a sterling effort, given it was the first time he had gone live. I thoroughly enjoyed it. His excitement was infectious. And so the answer to it is yes, but with caution that it is very rare. Fair enough? Yes, I think that would be a fair statement. Yes, fair. There we go. Emma gives me the seal of approval, and if you get the approval, and then you know all is good. So I believe a lot of you are saying that your cats get very smelly when they get wet. So the thing is that I would like to know from many of you, do you smell your cats before you touch them, or do you just smell them because you get up close to them? It's an interesting thing, because lions, like I say, we obviously the distance that we're at, very few people would be able to probably smell their cats at the distance that we're at the moment from these lions. So if I had to put your cat from where I'm sitting, I highly doubt that I would smell them. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I would. I'm not quite sure. The interesting thing, though, is that there obviously is a scent to them, and maybe somebody that's ever, I don't know, worked with lions before, I'll have to ask some vets whether or not in rain, when they touch them, that they can smell them. But in the lions that I've been fortunate enough to have worked with in terms of vets darting and checking and those kind of things, you can touch them, but generally you always touch them with gloves, and so that smell is never really on your hands. It's not like wild dogs. Wild dogs, when you do work around them, if you touch them and you put it on your clothes, that smell just doesn't come out of your clothes for days, and you have to wash it a few times until it starts to come out, and your hands as well. So they are a lot more smelly than what the lions are, unless the lions, like I say, have been eating a rotten carcass. If they've been eating a rotten carcass, well, then you tickets. They smell horrendous. So, Crystal, you say your cat doesn't smell like anything when it's wet compared to a dog. Well, in my experience, and the cats that I've had in my life, that would be the same for me. I don't really recall my cats smelling like wet anything, really. Maybe a little bit. I just can't remember. Giraffe Girl, you say you never really smell your cats. Now, Giraffe Girl, that would be, if anybody else was listening to this conversation and wasn't really paying attention to what has been going on and just took that as a one-liner, it would be a rather awkward thing to explain, is that I never really smell my cats. It's a kind of weird one-liner that people might just kind of look at you a bit funny, as to say, why are you talking about smelling your cats anyway? What are you doing that you're picking up and smelling your cat? So, funny things that we talk about on Safari Live is often get into these funny conversations. But I'm glad that you don't smell your cat. I'm sure your cat's quite happy. Knowing cats, they don't really like to be picked up and smelt, a lot of them. Jocelyn, Jocelyn has gone off to go smell her cat. But now, Jocelyn, I want to know one thing. Before you go and smell your cat, you can't just pick up and smell your cat because you've just decided you want to smell it and it's dry. The experiment has to be that the cat has got to be wet. Now, anyone who has ever tried to wet a cat will know very well that that's not a very good idea for the most part. There are odd cats out there that's not too phased, but most cats don't like to be wet. So I'm intrigued to see how this goes and whether or not you're successful in the fact that you can smell your cats, unless of course it's been raining where you are, and then of course you will be able to do it. But otherwise your experiment is going to be a bit flawed, or you're going to make your cat wet, and that's going to be probably detrimental to some form of your body where it's going to get clawed at some point. So let us know how it goes, and if there is any clawing that takes place, send us a photo. It will be quite funny to see what your cat actually looks like. And if you do wet your cat, the faces of a wet cat is generally quite miserable, so a screenshot of your cat would be quite funny as well. but hopefully you're not going to wet your cat. Don't wet your cat. Cats don't like to be wet. You can see these cats are not too wet. They'll shake off all of them just now, though, and you'll find a lot of water will come off them. It's better when the males do it because they get the manes, and the manes get a lot wetter, but these guys are pretty cool to see as well. Right, well, our lions slowly stirring, so while we see if they're going to wake up, let's send you back across to Sydney and see if he's had any luck with his lions or leopard.
I am still busy trekking for these cats, and it is quiet here where I am, and no tracks on the roads at all. All I'm seeing are old tracks for this morning. A lot of hyenas activities here, showing that hyenas has been here. Maybe these hyenas were after the leopards. So these days is going to be very difficult to spot an animal from the bushes without seeing the track first. So maybe we might be lucky with some of the fresh tracks. I'm going to try the Muluwat area, Twinsdam area. Can pick up a very strong smell. A child of the universe. The lions don't specifically target an animal. After the buffalo, they prefer something which is heavier than 550 kilograms. So if something is larger than 550 kilograms, is preferred by the lions. So in other words, lions, they first check the size of the group. If they see that the size of the pride is 10 like the Unkuhumas or 11, they know they must have to target something big so that everyone can get satisfied. Here comes the problem. Lions, they know if they don't target something big to satisfy everybody, it is going to be like a fruitless exercise. They don't want to lose much energy in order to get a little bit of food. They want to chase something big and lose energy in order to gain back the energy they have lost. And I think it's a good idea. So now I am going to send you to the Masai Mara, where David is also looking for something in the rain.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can say I have a smile on my face because for the last 30-40 minutes, me and Archie has been hammered by very heavy storms. And at one point, we just had to stop the vehicle. You can see how grey it looks. We stopped the vehicle and we did not know where to go, left or right. But at least, you see, we've just brought all the flaps down. We are still surviving. We are still in business. And where we are now is a lot better. Well, in the process of us being hammered by the rain, we saw black rhino, unfortunately. That was my mission for today. But also the rhino was also equally confused like us because she kept running her tail up. And these are some of the things that will happen when the weather just changes drastically. Now, we have elephants at the moment, and what would happen is, unlike other animals which panic or which go in a bit of confusion when it rains, out of my many years in the bush, I have noticed elephants, they just keep doing their thing. If they were feeding, they'll just keep feeding. The only one time I see elephants slow down, stall, is in the mid of the heat of the day, and especially if they have young calves like that one you see there, they might look for some shade under some huge trees. But when it's just normal cold temperatures, rain or no rain, the elephants are always on the move. And that translates to elephants being my favorite animals because it's very unusual to see an elephant just doing nothing and just like boring you and not doing an action. Well, remember, this is a very interactive safari we are on, regardless of the rain. Should you have any comments or any questions, where are you, why is it raining where you are and where Tristan is, would be happy to talk to you. #SafariLive on Twitter. Well, I was talking earlier saying these are the short rains, but it would happen they might turn out to be again long rains like what we had early in the year. And when we stopped with Archie at one point, not sure I had a little clip of the rain there. I don't know that you want to come to me for a couple of seconds. I'm not sure the viewers can see that. Is that good, Archie? Yeah, Em in the final control says, oh my goodness, that source one, and before things got better. Well, the visibility at one point was even poor. We could not even move. And we're stuck in that one area, and we thought we're going to stay here until things get better and go out. So what we did, we've done a very big detour. Crystal, very good comment, and you're saying it's raining elephants and buffaloes and not cats and dogs. That's a great comment. I've always wanted to use the same comment because this is not what we call cats and dogs. This truly is elephants and buffaloes, or we might say giraffes and rhinos, just like the one rhino we saw there. Well, the thing is, the bucking business is not as heavy as it was before. Visibility is still not as good, so we're going to be maybe assembling our infrared maybe a few minutes if it doesn't get any better, and finding out what we might see on the road. John, do we get tornadoes or those kind of very big storms? Luckily in Africa we do not. We do not get tornadoes, we do not get those natural lightnings, but sometimes when it rains we get very heavy rains. And what happens is when there is a very heavy, they damage the infrastructure, roads and communication, it breaks down. But we luckily do not get tornadoes in Africa. Not really like what maybe people would get in North America. So Archie, I'm counting on you to spot game for me, because at the moment my visibility is almost less than 10%. I can only see about 5 meters in front of me. And you also notice our cars have almost no, what do you call them, the wipers on the windshield, because we always tilt the windshield, you know, on the bonnet. Paula, I'm very careful, Paula, and always very good to hear your name. And hopefully, Paula, you can see I have my shuka there. So what I'm doing today, I am staying on the big road. I'm not sure to call it M25. I am not leaving this highway. I will stick here until the drive is over. But the biggest mistake or the biggest risk I'm going to do is try to deviate and come out of the road to go get close to an animal. What happens here in the Mara, the geology of the Mara, the soil here, it's very sticky. We have what you call the black cotton soil. And if it rains, that one can put you in a lot of trouble. So possibly stay on the big road where they got some nice, you know, compact soil that just keeps you afloat and you don't want to sink. Last night I was stuck for about 10 minutes on the last night on the evening game drive. So not just surely, but the times you have seen cats come on the road when it rains so heavily and the grass becomes very wet. Lions in general, or the cheetahs, for example, they do not like the wetness of the grass and they tend to come to the road. I'll bet the road also being wet, they prefer staying on the road than in the grass. Personally, I'm enjoying the rain. It's turning everything green, and everything turns green. The herbivores have every reason to celebrate. The cats the same. And I'm hoping these rains are still in Serengeti National Park, where we're looking at another 2.5 months or so, the wildebeest bringing down their babies. It's around the month of February. All the tall grass that was here a couple of months ago became in the big multitudes, and the lawn mowed everything, and the grass at the moment is very short. The only animals enjoying the animals or the grass would be the buffaloes, giraffes, eland, and some other smaller antelopes. Well, I'm not sure how the weather looks like in South Africa with Sydney, and I'm sure he might be trying to get a leopard or a kind of some cat.
David, here where I am, the bush is also completely green, and this bush was fast to recover. Everything is green and is very much thick at the moment. I am trying my luck to see if we are going to back any of the cats this afternoon. I've just been to the twins dam now where except for the Egyptian goose. Each and every water hole here in arriving in the middle of the drainage line. Yeah. Sorry for the apologies for the inconvenience. We are experiencing some technical issues. We will be back just now. The signals are coming and going and coming and going. So now let's see, maybe we might, oh, look at that. Oh, we got an owl. Look at that. Oh, that owl decided. Oh, another one there. Oh, they were all sitting here and they've just left just now. So it was the two owls. I'm not too sure what they were busy with. And so now let's go to the Masai Mara where David is waiting.
Well, Sydney, some of these things will happen, and I remember at one point today I lost my signal. I had some technical issues. You'd imagine what we do in terms of technology to get us to your screen back home there is quite a complex way of doing things. Personally, I enjoy the rain and I have nothing against the rain. Where I come from any day, or where I come from in my village, any day the rain should come. My mother would tell, you know, why do you look so excited today? And I would tell her, I can see the clouds building, and the clouds building would maybe translate some rains later. And when it would rain, all of us would go out with all the other boys. And what we used to do, we would run and just stop in the middle of the mud and just slide, you know. And it was so funny. We'd compete who would slide more than the other. And the only challenges were you go back home with a few injuries here and there. We used to get very big beatings from our parents. And like, what did you do? Where did you go, you know? Those are the things that would happen then, and even today I still enjoy the rain. Yes, and you know, in the final control says that was quite some fun, but apparently no Gazu. So Florence, you say you love the rain too, and who would not love the rain? When you think what rain translates into, I mean, everybody should, you know, love the rain. Like the locals here, where we come from in the villages where we need to go to the rivers or streams to get the water, when it dries up, it's a challenge for the, you know, the villagers there. because it will mean them going longer distances to go to the bigger rivers to get the water. But if it rains, it's all green. We have so many streams to most villages in Africa where they can easily go and fetch water either for cooking or for laundry. I'm still hoping to see some lions or some cats of some sort on the road because the surface is much drier than the grass, which looks pretty wet for me now. Or maybe get some elephants walking on the road. The giraffes also don't get very bothered by the rain. Zebras are still fine with that. It's mainly most of the animals that have long fur because they don't want any water. The fur does not feel, or they don't feel very good if their fur hold lots of water. I would imagine also the cats, like lions, should get maybe pneumonia or they would get some infection or a cold. Once in a while we have been out on a drive. There's a particular pride of lions that I call the sausage tree pride that I really love. They're my favorite. And there are times when I'm watching them, I have noticed the cubs once in a while just sneezing. You know, they would sneeze or cough. And I would imagine is when maybe they inhale a lot of cold air or when it gets very cold at night or if it rains, definitely is not very healthy for them. Big animals, I would say like the buffaloes, I don't think they have issues, you know, with the rain. That should be good for them. David, very good question, and apparently we share the same name, and I'm sure that's one of the best names in the world I have ever heard of. And you want, so the annual rainfall in the Mara, it's about 1,000 millimeter annually. It's about 1,000 millimeter, that's the annual rainfall in the Mara. But I would say this year we might be going 1.5 times that, maybe 1,500 millimeter of rain, David, this year, because the rains, when we had the long rains, March, April, May and June, they were very, very heavy. We had very few trucks that would come out, David, and do a game drive. And what we call the short rains now, to me, are equivalent to the normal long rains that we get every year. So if we double that, or we say 1.5 times, we might end up with about 1,500 millimeter of rainfall this year. But we'll still see, we've still got about 20 more days or 15 days to the end of the year. All right, any lions on the road here? Or any hyenas? Not much. So what it do? Ngora, you're asking, does it ever get so wet and the safari vehicles have issues? Yes, like the months I'm talking about, June, July, it was so bad because the vehicles, most of the safari tourists had to stay on the big roads like this, and they would watch, say, lions or cheetahs from a distance, and they only had to use their far lookers or binoculars. A few guides who thought, well, they would take a risk. Some of them were stuck for hours and hours, you know, because you had to wait for a big grader to come and tow them out. And there are times when even those graders would try to tow those vehicles out, and what would happen is it was very difficult, and the tow of the use, they would snap. So they ended up putting the tourists on top of those graders, and I'm imagining something like an open tractor with, you know, the tourists holding their handbags, their passes, and their binoculars being brought to a bigger road like this, and then they would be fetched by another vehicle back to the camp, you know. Of course, the guide also would accompany them, and they go back to the camp, either have a long breakfast or stay in, have lunch, and wait for a day or two to go back and tow the vehicle out. Yeah, it was very tough. It was very tough. Hopefully it doesn't get to that level this time around. We highly doubt. But you're waiting to hear from the meteorological department, and they're going to tell us how it will be. But I can tell you for a fact, the last 5-10 years, the weather pattern here has been quite erratic. Very difficult to say tomorrow this is what we expect, next week this is what I expect. No, no, no. Sometimes you just wait and play by the ear. Well, it had started to subside, but it's like coming back again. But so long as I stay on the big road, I'll still be in business. Very good. Keep fingers crossed, doesn't get pretty bad. But as I say, the good news is the surface on this road is very compact soil and everything's pretty fine. This doesn't worry me a minute. What would happen if it gets very big and we get thunderstorms or lightning? We may only have to power down and wait for things to get better. But as far as we are concerned at this point in time, so far so good and still in business. The only thing I want is to get some lions or something on the road, and I'm sure I can swing one side or the other, and Archie will open his small window and you might see it. But we'll keep driving, enjoying the rain, enjoying the darkness. And Sydney, I don't know whether he would want to be here or he would want to be where he is.
I wish that rain was here. It's so very hot here by the Mpumalanga province at the moment. During the night it's so warm. So I think if the rain comes to this side of the world, we are going to enjoy because it's going to get much cooler. So I'm going back to the Chitakat line and see if maybe we can not be lucky with anything coming out from the Torchwood, as at the moment it looks like there's quite a lot of things happening by the Torchwood side, as it is the same area Tingana was last spotted, Kalamba is always there, Chandi has been spotted there, now Hosanna, we saw him yesterday going to the same area. So I think it's ideal going to double check the Chitakat line. We want all these cats to come back to this side of Juma. So the interesting thing is where we are going to look at now, the fire break is much more clear and the roads are much more open, so it's very easy to pick up their tracks. Lynn, I didn't copy your question very nicely. Lynn, the most effective camouflage of these animals, I can say the best one is the dazzle motion, as I indicated, which is the one for the zebras. That one, I think it works more effectively. That's why zebras, they don't really get affected by predation by these lions. They do get caught, but not very often. Despite their heavy kick, as the zebras, they've got a very dangerous kick and turn mechanism. When they're turning to the right, they kick to the left. When they're turning to the left, they kick to the right. So they can kick very well, the zebras, and they also got a very strong bite. So I think it's important that I also check this side. We have been here before, we drove here, but I just want to check this area for the second time. As now the sun is about to go down, and when the sun is going down is when the predators such as the leopards are starting to become much more active. Maybe it's when they will be coming out from Torchwood towards the Juma side. So I have seen the fresh droppings of one buffalo in the middle of the Muluwati drainage line. Maybe that is the buffalo which attracted the lion tracks we have seen earlier. Maybe Hosanna got something deep in the Torchwood side yesterday. That's why he's not coming out. We are not seeing any of the sign of him in the area. So he was really on a hunting mood yesterday. So I saw him, I have witnessed him trying to catch a steenbok. So now that the impalas are having quite a lot of lambs. Paula, I have not yet seen the chameleons yet. But now is when the chameleons are active. I've seen one chameleon on the road outside the reserve on my way back from the leave. But here I have not yet noticed one. Maybe they are just very camouflaged. So no luck by the eastern side of the cheetah cut line. So which means now I'm going to have to drive all the way up much more towards Buffalo's Hook again to see if there is no other tracks by the cheetah cut line. So the difference between me and David is that I am driving where it's dry and David is driving in the rain. So let's have experience of both these game drives.
How interesting to have two different worlds, one with rain and one very dry where Sydney is. And I'm wondering whether it is Tristan or Manu or Archie, because it's not me who did the rain dance. And once you do the rain dance, this is exactly what happens. Archie, was it you? I'm not sure he is hearing me or he's just ignoring me, but it's very strange. We get rains here, but not as big. I remember way back in my village, my grandfather would tell me there are times when it was very dry. And if there was big drought, people had plans of trying to bring the rain. And what they did, they would get one particular sheep, and that sheep had to be only one color. One color, I'm saying, if it was black, it wasn't even one fur, not one hair that could be white. It was spotless black. And if it was white, it was spotless white. And not sure the eyes were white, but it was meant to be only one color. And what they would do, there are particular trees, they would go and make a ritual near those trees. And those trees are what you call the fig trees. I'm sure all of you know the fig trees. And there were particular elders, there were particular people in the village who could only do that. Not every other, Tom and Dick and Harry would do that. So there were particular elders, and the villagers would go to them and beseech them, this drought is so bad, no water, our animals are dying, we are going hundreds of miles to look for, water to fetch, for cooking or laundry. You need to do that ritual. So the moment they would get a couple of those sheep, be it 5 or 10, I can't remember how many I was told, they would get them together, and these elders would drive this sheep towards those fig trees. And what they would do, they would go under those trees and they would slaughter them. And they did not touch any meat from what they slaughtered. And all the stomach contents would be spread around those trees. And there were particular prayers, they would make, or there were particular way they would talk, either to the traditional god or I can't remember what. And that process was taking about, I hear, a day or two. And as soon as they finished to do that, they would start heading back to the village. And what I gathered, or what I remember, is before even they would leave the ritual area where they had the sacrifices done, before even they would start, preparing to go back, people would say thunderstorms would be pop, 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 pop. The next thing you'd hear or see were lightnings. And the truth is, before they would get back to the village, the heavens would have opened and it would rain. I'm sure I can't remember who told me not dogs and cats. It would be raining buffaloes and elephants. And truly, the dynamics, the ball game would change. Lots of rain and it would turn green in a very short time, and the villagers would be like, well done to those elders. Not sure whether that still happens today. I do not know. And the times I've always thought, well, can I go and try it? Paula, I agree with you, and I think dancing the shower could be something very special. So I do not know, Paula, whether I would be able to do the same today myself, but I would wish to try. Not sure I have the right age, but the people, Paula, who do that were particular, elders who would easily do that. The only other thing, Paula, I remember we would do, instead of going to the river or to the dams to bathe ourselves, we would just stay in the rain, without clothes on, excuse my language, and rain would fall on us, and using some leaves from the, from the bush, which could easily make some foam, and just bathe in the rain. They'd come back home in the village being very clean boys, And our mothers would just look at us like this, shake their heads. And the only one thing I remember, my mother used to tell me, she doesn't want to hear anybody cough. If you cough, go back in the rain and spend the night out there. And I don't know whether today's children are able to do the same. And I'm thinking we were either less than 10 years old. It's way back. Well, we're still soldiering on. The rains haven't stopped. They have not relenting. They still keep hammering us. And we're going to keep trying to chance on anything on the road. Archie, how are you doing back there? Archie's just going like this. I'm not sure what that means. But so we're gonna keep trying here in the rain, but I think there's a gentleman who is driving in very dry weather.
I am right on the cheetah cat line where I am not seeing any of the sign of any of these cats here, but I'm gonna just keep going and going until I now check the Buffalo's Hook cat line. Maybe we might be lucky much more towards the Buffalo's Hook cat line. Oh, I'm lucky with the fork-tailed drongo. So you can see the fork-tailed drongo. Look at that background, how nice it's looking, nice and green. So the fork-tailed drongo, look at the tail, it's like a fork. And this is one of those birds who does eat quite a lot of insects and even use strategies such as mimicking some of the predators just to get rid of the other birds to avoid competition in the area. So he was too fast to fly away. I've got to carry on now and see if we can find any other interesting animal. Ashley, it is so green. Both grasses and trees are so excited at the moment. If you look at these grasses here on my right hand side, you can see how green that is. This grass, when the animals are feeding on it, they don't get pressurized at all at the moment. Because the animals cannot concentrate on a specific place. But when animals are concentrating by the same block every time, it gives the grass quite a lot of pressure. And instead of some of the grasses to grow, some of the grasses to grow up, they lie down. So now let's cross over to the Masai Mara, where Tristan is ready to come back.
Well, unfortunately, we've had a few gremlins of our own, and that means that we've been kind of following these lines for a little bit, and they unfortunately are heading into an area where we're not going to be able to follow them, which is a shame. I was hoping that they weren't going to go the way they've gone, but these guys are, for now, sitting back. These are the last three. Everybody else has already gone. They're going straight up the escarpment, but up a kind of forested section that cuts into the escarpment, and it is impossible to follow through there. So we're not even going to try to even follow them much further than here. I'm hoping that these three boys will stand up and start moving. I think it's boys. Difficult to see. Well, I can't see anything. It's obviously just whatever the camera sees itself. But these guys are, for some reason, very intrigued by something. They all stopped there, and they all kind of rolled around and have had a good time bonding over there. Now, Brendan, will the all males for sub-adults form coalitions? Yes, provided they all survive. So, provided the Kitchener boys don't get overthrown and new males come in within the next 2 years or year and a half, then they should form a coalition. How many in each coalition would be interesting. I mean, if 7 of them, which is what I counted this morning, apparently there is 9, but I've counted 7 only. If there's 7 of them, then that is a big coalition, and whether they stick together, I'm not sure. If they do, they will rule this entire triangle, really, because they won't have much competition. But what often happens when you get big coalitions like that, particularly at like times of the year where the migration's not here, food for that many big males is very tricky to find. As well as the distribution of the females makes it, almost impossible for the 7 of them to stay together all the time. And so what you'll get is probably splitting off of maybe 2 or 3 going in their own directions, and forming 2 or 3 coalitions, and then every now and then kind of coming together and separating out. The only ones that really have kind of been big coalitions like that in the Mara has been the Musketeers. Notch and Sons was a big coalition as well, but I don't think there's been a coalition of 7, has there? Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I could be wrong. There's a rich history in the Mara that's long before my time, so there might have been a coalition of 7 or more, but certainly haven't heard about them. So, it's going to be tough for 7 males to survive together. And like I say, just the amount of females and the smallness of a lot of the prides within the triangle will mean that you'll probably find that they'll split apart quite a bit, spending lots of time as 2s or 3s or on their own, and then come together, much like the Musketeers do. If you see the Musketeers, it's very seldom that they spend huge amounts of time as all 4. Francis, that's a good question, actually. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I would imagine lions. I'm going to go with lions. Have better eyesight in the dark than hyenas, but I might be wrong. Do they have a tortoise or something that they're eating? Hold on, let's get a little bit closer, Manu. I think they might be eating a tortoise. Imagine it's a pangolin, Manu. That would be cool. That would be very epic, but I don't think so. There's definitely something that they're chomping on here. So I'm just using my lights so I can actually see where I'm going. Yes, me and my rainbow luck. What are you 2 boys chomping on? It's something that is round and big. What is it? Is it a pangolin? It looks like a pangolin. It is a pangolin. It's a pangolin. Look at that, guys. That's ridiculous. So the lions are busy playing with the pangolin. No, man. What are the chances? That's crazy. Now, this is a super rare animal, and what are the chances of them playing with a pangolin? No, I don't believe it. That is ridiculous. Now, Emma, if we can, I think we should take this to a lot more people, because 1 is it is an incredibly special animal. 2, to see lions playing with it is even more rare. So this is something that we are not going to get very often at all, and I hope that they're not going to leave it alone now, because it's rolled into a tight ball to defend itself. This is insane. Look at that. Can you hear the claws on its scales? No, I can't believe our luck. This is amazing. Wow. Now, pangolin has got to be, besides a leopard, got to be one of my favorite animals, and not something that we get to see often at all. In fact, we very seldom see one. No, don't leave it now, lion, because I want to show people. Oh no, the lions have left it. Mrs. Lapwing, he has been playing soccer now. Let's see if the pangolin's okay. Should be okay when they roll up like that. they're going to be kind of together. Now, it's actually my fault because I was so far away that I didn't notice that that's what they had found. Oh, that is ridiculous. Now, come on, little one. You're going to have to unroll at some point so that we can see you. This is insane, guys. This is a pangolin that is only the second one we've ever gotten live on camera. Their last one was with Brenty, and he had it, and it was actually inside the Kruger National Park. So this is very special. Right, now, I think we can go live anyway, Emma, even though it's not moving. Let's try and see. It will come out unfolded eventually. It's not going to stay like that forever. It just probably thinks the lions are still around. So we can still go live, and we'll discuss the whole thing while the lions are still close by. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Masai Mara, and with a very special animal. We've just managed to find a pangolin, which is curled up in a very tight ball at the moment, and the reason why is because lions were actually playing with it. We didn't realize what the lions had, and we drove up and they had found this pangolin, and they were trying to chew into the pangolin, but it was too kind of curled up, and its armor plating was too tough for it, and so the lions have moved off, and we've sat with the pangolin now in the hope that it's going to start unraveling and we'll start to get it to move. Now, pangolins are an incredible animal. They're not something that we get to see very often at all. In fact, they're an animal that is incredibly rare and is the most trafficked animal in the world these days, and so they are vitally important that we actually, when we get to see one, which is, like I say, extremely rare. This is only the second time that we've managed to get a pangolin on this particular product that we produce in almost 10 years. So that gives you an idea of how rare these guys are. They are not common at all. And so the thing is that they are used for their scales. Now, let's see if it's going to move. I thought I saw it just twitch slightly. What you'll find with these guys is they roll up into this defensive ball, and they've got this long tail. So the tail is what's closest to us at the moment. It's very difficult to make out what's actually going on, but the tail is closest to us, and it rolls round and protects their head, and their head tucks in, and those hard scales will protect the soft underbelly where the legs and the face is, so that they don't get hurt when things like lions come across them, because they're not fast animals, and this does happen. Laurie, can it breathe like that? Yes. So if you have a look, it's a bit tricky to see, but in the middle of that, you'll see that there's a sort of contour, which is the tail coming round, and then there's almost like a little gap that goes down. Now that is where the actual kind of face will be, and so there's air getting in there, and they can breathe. I've luckily seen quite a few pangolins in my time, and every time they roll up like this, they can stay like this for quite a long time, particularly if lions have been around, and they will just curl up and they wait and they wait and they wait, and only when they're really sure that the lions are gone, they might even be curled up because I'm talking at the moment, and only when they're really sure that the lions have disappeared will they then unravel themselves and they'll start to move. And it is an amazing thing that I can't actually believe that we've managed to find a pangolin. When we saw the lions kind of messing around, I thought maybe they'd gotten a tortoise, but tortoises aren't out at night, and so I thought maybe, just maybe, there's a pangolin, and we have got one, which is insane. So very cool. Now, I forgot to introduce myself as well. My name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Manu this evening, and we are coming to you live, which means we want to hear from all of you. So remember to be able to send through your questions and comments in the comment section below, and we'll basically answer as many as we can. Giraffe Girl, what is the main diet of a pangolin? Well, pangolins will spend their time feeding mostly off things like termites, ants, where they will basically go along. They've got these four limbs that almost look a little bit like T-Rex when they walk. So they're on their back legs, two front legs, and they have long claws. And the claws, they'll then scrape at the mounds, and they open it up. And then they have this tongue that is pretty much the length of their body, so it almost attaches close to their back legs, their hips, and it kind of comes out, and it will go down, and it's very sticky, and it will pull out those little insects and bring them back into the mouth, and they'll then feed off that. And so that's probably why this one is out today. After the bit of rain that we've had, that's going to mean that it's going to show, the soil's going to be softer, much easier to dig. I just want to move slightly so I can see if maybe we can just get a view of any lions that might be around. The lions look like they kind of moved off, unfortunately, into the distance. They got fed up of trying to kind of go towards this pangolin and try to sort of eat it. Now, they went off in that distance there. You can see there's a bit of rain that's falling. I'm going to use my spotlight just to give Manu a bit of help, but unfortunately the lions have really disappeared The last one I saw was walking there just before we went to all of you. We just saw it disappearing over this ridge. So Graham, you're asking where in the Mara am I? Well, I'm in the Mara Triangle, basically straight below Ngama Mara, so on the northern point of the Mara Triangle. So there is our pangolin. I'm going to just move slightly so that Manu can actually get a better view, so we can show you a bit more of the details, because at the moment we're in a bit of a tricky spot with the grass. So we're just going to get... Manu, I'm going to go round a little bit so that we can see a bit better. So we're a little bit higher than what the grass is, and then we should be able to see a little bit better. So yeah, Graham, we're right up in the north. There we go. Now, Crystal, are pangolins nocturnal? Not strictly. They are active more at night, so they do like to move around a lot in the evenings, because it's a lot easier for them to go and they don't get harassed and spotted as easily. But they are not strictly nocturnal. They can be seen during the day. I have seen this is now my 8th or 9th pangolin that I've seen. 2 of them were during the day. The rest have all been at night. So, funny enough, out of the pangolins that I've seen, 2 have been accosted by leopards and this one now by lions. And you can see that armor plating. It almost looks like a pine cone that you can see here. And basically that armor plating is like your fingernail, but incredibly thick. So if you had to go and kind of touch that, it almost feels like armor, and you can knock on it and it would be very, very hard. And that's why the lions actually leave it alone, is because their mouths just can't get a purchase on it. It's because of the hardness, and especially tonight when it's wet, it's going to be slippery, and their teeth are just going to slide on that keratin kind of armor plating. And that's why eventually they're just going to leave it alone. They're going to get frustrated and move on. Bill, so pangolins are solitary. You only see them by themselves unless, of course, they have a pup, which will mean that they have the little baby, and often the baby rides on their back, which is super cute. That little baby pangolin is the cutest little thing in the world, and they'll ride on the back of mom. But yes, solitary, otherwise you won't see them in pairs, unless, of course, you're very fortunate and you find mating pangolins, which is, well, then you must go play the lottery that night, because you're going to get very lucky. So, Stephanie, it's obviously very difficult for you to be able to get any idea of a sense of scale for these guys. And so, basically, in terms of size, if it was to unravel and to basically stand and have its tail dead straight and its nose out, it would be probably from the dashboard, so from about there to the end of the dashboard. So, they're about, what's that? Maybe my arm's length. So just over about a meter would be from the tip of the tail. Now I actually do have a photo of one that I can show you when they're unraveled. Now this particular species that we're seeing, I'm just trying to see where I can get a photo for you. This particular species is called a Temming's ground pangolin. Which is the species that you get here in East Africa down towards South Africa. You get them. Then in the Congo and forest areas of Africa, you will get black-bellied pangolins, tree pangolins, and so a few other different species as well. Kathy, they are ferocious. You have to be very careful. They'll attack you at the moment's... No, I'm joking. They will not attack a person. They are completely harmless to people. So basically, and that's what makes them a bit of why they're so threatened, is because they don't really have any defense. People come across this animal, it's got nothing that it can do other than roll into a ball like this, which works really well for predators that are natural to them. But as people, obviously, we can get through that. And so no, they don't release any sort of gas, they don't release any sort of substance that can burn your skin or anything like that. The only thing they can do is roll in this ball. But I will tell you something, is if you pick them up and they're agitated, what they do is they almost vibrate their body, and those scales move, and they actually can lacerate your hands quite quickly. You can see how chipped and broken those scales are, and that's all kind of going to cut you up if you try and pick them up. So normally what happens is people grab them with into bags, and then they take them out of the reserves illegally, and then from there normally they are boiled whole like this, and then the scales are pulled off and used. So it's a bit of a problem, and like I said, they are the most trafficked animal in the world currently, which is pretty scary. So it's a horrible thing to think that we've got animals out here that are being poached at the rate that they are, and tons and tons and tons of pangolin scales are leaving Indonesia and Africa every year. Xavier, you're asking if they're related to armadillos. Well, no, not really. They're not the same species. Armadillo has a kind of softish body in comparison to these guys. So they're in their own little grouping altogether. Now I'm trying to find... Okay, there we go. So I found a photo of it that I can show you guys. I just want to quickly adjust the brightness so that we can actually see, because my phone has decided, because it's dark, that it must have a very low brightness. So we'll just try to get that up. There we go. Okay, so basically this is what these guys look like when they are unraveled. So they're very, very scaly. You can see a long tail. Now that tail needs to be long, one, to balance them, because they walk on their back legs only. You see their front legs are carried forward, almost like a T-Rex, and then this back tail will actually wrap around like we're seeing now to protect this animal. Then if you have a look, I'll try to zoom in onto this one. Sorry, this is not a high-res picture, but we can zoom in a little bit. You can see there on its front feet, very, very big, long claws, tiny little ear, smallish kind of eye, and then a long snout, and that tongue will come out of that snout there, and they'll then pick it up and go back in, which is absolutely amazing. To see one of these is the most special thing in the whole world, and so we are being so spoiled. I know it doesn't look like much, and I know it's just a ball in the grass to some people, but the thing is as a guide, now spending 10 years out in the wildernesses of various parts of Africa, to only have seen 8 or 9 of them in that time gives you an idea of how rare they are. And I spend pretty much all day, every day out in the bush. Even when I'm on leave and not working, I'm in some sort of game reserve somewhere. So it gives you an idea how rare they are. There are certain places where you can go and you'll find them and you'll have a bit more of a success rate, but they are an incredibly special animal, and very few people get the opportunity to see one of these things. It's one of those animals that you kind of wish that you could see and that you get lucky enough to see. Now, there's apparently, where in a reserve that I've worked before, they reckon that with pangolins, that this is how they do. They'll curl up like this if they've been attacked by a predator, and they sit like this. And if you're talking and those kind of things, they stay like that. As soon as if you want them to move, they always say that you start your car. Now, I'm not sure that that's true, because we started our car just now and it didn't move. It just decided to stay curled up. I think it's got the fright of its life, and I would too if I had 13 lions on top of me as well at one point. So there was, I think at one point there was 6 of them. But like I say, we had no idea what they were doing. They just looked like they were grooming each other, and couldn't really see what was actually going on. And so I was kind of thinking to myself, they're grooming quite a lot, and then some of them started to leave and others stayed behind, and I thought, no, there's something wrong here, because lions, typically if one goes, then they all start to get up and start to move around, but yet this one kind of, a lot of them stayed behind, and so I thought to myself, well, maybe it's something else that they've managed to find, and so we kind of came a little bit closer, and it was a pangolin, which is crazy. Now, Carla, the lifespan for these guys, tricky. They're so understudied, but reckoned to be about 20 years. So anywhere between sort of 18 and 20 years would be about the right lifespan for these guys. But like I say, because they're so shy and so reclusive, there's so little that's really known about pangolins, and there's only a handful of people that have actually studied this particular species of pangolin with any sort of success, and because it's around at night, it makes it even more tricky to find. The one guy that did study them was a guy that worked in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve in South Africa, and where our Djuma base is, and he used to have to go out at night on foot. Now, this guy was crazy. His name is Jonathan Swart, and he's written some really interesting stuff about pangolins, but he used to go out on foot, and he used to track pangolins that he had tagged, and he would walk around at night with a spotlight by himself. Now, you walk around in the bush here, it is not a very pleasant experience, and you got to walk through elephant, leopard, lion, hyenas, just to follow these guys around, and so it makes it incredibly tough. And the problem with them is that they spend a vast majority of their time hanging around. So Manu's just having a little scan, trying to see if the lions are anywhere near. The vast majority of their time moving under darker conditions, and so they also move in places where vehicles are going to really struggle to go. And so unfortunately, they're one of those species that it's very tricky to actually be able to study, and so that's why there's very little on it. But I actually can't believe that we have seen a pangolin tonight. Like I say, it's not the most riveting in terms of its movements, but to be able to see this is so special. Now, Connor, what is the rarest species of pangolin? Probably, I mean, I read an article about this the other day, and because they're so sort of understudied, apparently I think it's the black-bellied, I might be wrong, it's either black-bellied or white-bellied pangolin, one of the two of them, that is the rarest, if I'm correct. I must go and double-check that, though. But this particular one here is not as sort of high up on the list of rarities. They are quite widespread, and there's probably a lot more of these than we even know. It's just when you drive along, not many people are going to spot that in grass like this. We're just fortunate that lions played with it. Otherwise, the chances of us seeing this thing would have been almost zero. In the grass, when it's curled up like that, it looks just like a rock. And during the day, you would have zero idea that that is a pangolin, unless, of course, you got close enough that you could see the scales. And so they've easily overlooked. And so actual numbers of pangolin are probably not as well known. Now, here in these environments, we've got grasslands where we can probably spot them a bit easier. But you must remember also in the jungle areas, pangolins can be very tricky to find. So, you know, it's an interesting animal in that regard, and I don't think numbers are really as well known as what people say they are. There's certainly a lot that are missing. Right, unfortunately it's still curled up. It's probably still absolutely petrified by the lions, and so we waited and we tried and hoped that it would get up and start moving. If it does start to move, we'll go live again. But from Manu and myself, and a very, very special sighting of a pangolin, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys again sometime soon. Well, absolutely ridiculous. Now, I know that a lot of people might think that I'm absolutely mad, that I've gotten so excited about a big ball of scales in a bush that doesn't look like very much. But I can tell you that they are really, really, really quite special. And hopefully, I mean, I know a lot of you will, without doubt, be completely blown away that we've gotten one. I know a lot of you have really asked to see pangolins over and over again, and I know we often laugh about it and we say there's no chance. But there we go, and I hope lots of screenshots were taken when the lions were playing with it, because it's a very special thing to see that, and we've been utterly spoilt. Now, this pangolin has a friend. There's a moth that is about the only action that we've seen from this pangolin that keeps bounding around on it, and I'm hoping it is going to unravel. I don't think it's hurt by the lions before anybody thinks that it's dead. I don't think that's the case. I just think that what's happened is it's so kind of been played with so much that it just feels very nervous, and it can probably still hear me talking, and that's why it's like this. And it's just sitting, and it's really kind of feeling as though it's being a bit kind of surrounded by something. And so maybe if we just, you know, stop talking for a little bit and sit quietly, you never know, maybe, just maybe, this little creature will actually come out. Right, now, sorry, Emma, you broke up badly. I lost you a little bit there, so if you can just repeat what you said. Right, good. So we're going to send you across to David. We're going to sit quietly in the hope that it starts to move, and if it does move, then we'll come right back. But how special was that?
Well, just like Sydney, I think that was a super special sighting, and I'm very jealous of Tristan, you know. Tristan might be leaving the next few days down to South Africa, and he has been here for about 3 weeks, and he found me here looking for pangolins, and he has seen one before me. I am a little bit jealous, but sometimes it's the luck of the draw and being at the right place at the right time. And to see one, you know, the lions playing with one, I think that was super special. Anyhow, pangolins, as he might have said, tend to move more at night. And where I come from, if you see a pangolin, we have always said you got a 90% chances of winning a lottery. That is, if you see a pangolin at night. But if you see a pangolin during the day, you have the chances of 101% 101% of winning a lottery. So, 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 101% 1 Not sure how many other people believe that, but from the village I come from, that is the belief. During the night, 90% of what you'd want to do, chances are it will happen and it will go well. If you then Tristan, you need to come close to me and we make a plan. And the only one condition, Tristan, will give you the lottery you win. You'll know how to give me 20% of that and maybe give Archie 10%. So if that's the deal, Tristan, come talk to me tonight and I'll show you how to go about it. Alrighty. Keep hunting and we need to see who could be on the road. Sorry, come back again, Emma. See how lucky you might be. I'd be very happy to see a pangolin. Not sure the pangolin was brought out of the barrow because of the rain. Yes, that sounds a great deal. I don't know whether Sydney want to join in my deal with Tristan of getting 20% of the lottery. Sydney, what do you think of that?
I am still looking for one of these cats here in the area, and at the same time I'm very jealous about Tristan with a beautiful pangolin, something I haven't seen here in Juma. Yes, I have seen a pangolin before, and a story about the pangolin I want to share with you is that when a pangolin is killed by an animal or by anything, if the blood of the pangolin touches the ground, in Venda, traditionally, we believe that the rain is not going to come, it is going to be a drought year. A pangolin, we believe that when it's on the ground, when it's dead, blood touching the ground is going to bring the drought. So it's one of those animals you are not allowed at all to kill in Venda. So if you kill a pangolin there, you are going to face a lot of problems. But if the pangolin is dead naturally, and this is what happens, normally the scale of the pangolin is taken and you can put it in the glass with water to give the infant and other people to drink before the winter season in order to chase away the cold and to protect them against the flu. So now let's quickly go back to the pangolin in the Masai Mara with Tristan.
Well, yes, we're still sitting with our pangolin and our riveting moth that is bouncing around, but pangolin still hasn't moved at all. We've been sitting quietly in the hope that it would decide to unravel itself and start moving, but it's locked in tight. I think that thing is going to stay as tightly bound as it can for quite some time. And like I say, imagine if you had 13 lions trying to bite you, you would also probably be in a similar situation. Now, adding to what Sydney was saying is about pangolins. I once spent some time, we had a funeral at one of the camps that I worked at because one of the owners unfortunately passed away, and on the day of the funeral we were talking and chatting about things, and we went out in the afternoon drive and we saw a pangolin. In fact, that photograph I showed during that broadcast just now with the kind of pangolin unraveled that night actually is that same shot. And the guys were telling me, a lot of the local guys, and I don't know, Sydney might be able to confirm this, but that they were saying often when somebody passes away, a pangolin gets seen, and that it is a sign of that person is still there, and it's almost like a message from them, which is very, very interesting because today, funny enough, somebody that I know and a friend of actually Sebastian that is a guide was unfortunately killed by an elephant yesterday. And so it makes you wonder. This is the fourth pangolin that I've seen the day after somebody, or day of or after that somebody has passed away, which is a very kind of weird thing in many respects. And I don't really know, it could just be coincidence completely, but this is what the guys tell me and what they believe. And it's, I suppose, one of those things. So, you know, it's a interesting kind of take on things. Now, I'm really hoping that this pangolin decides that it's going to unravel for you guys, and kind of show itself off, and that you can actually see it. And the main reason why I want it to actually move is that you can then listen to it. And listening to a pangolin sounds really odd. It's not that they call or make a noise, but when these guys walk, they have this scraping sound as these kind of plates shift and move. You can hear the scraping of them together, and it's a really cool sound. It's obviously very unique to them, and it's not something that a lot of people hear, so I'm hoping that they will do that. Now, Ladybird, you say, well, you were being very kind and saying that that's quite a kind of special thing, and it is. It's a interesting kind of whole story, and like I say, it's obviously always sad when one of the guiding fraternity unfortunately has an incident with a wild animal, and you know, bad things happen. But it's a weird thing that pangolins come out, and like I say, that the time before when it was happened with that kind of funeral and stuff, and the guys was just saying it's almost a sign of that person coming and saying to everybody, you know, it's okay, we're still out and about. So that's what they say. I don't know if anyone else has had that experience, and like I say, Sydney might be able to be kind of somebody that can verify if it's in his culture, because obviously Sydney's culture is slightly different to where we are in the Sabi Sands. So Laura, you say it's giving you chills. Well, I know it's a weird thing. Like I say, it's something that, you know, you obviously don't really kind of give it too much notice when you kind of hear it, but then when they start adding up, it starts to become a weird coincidence in many respects, or to be something that could be, who knows, depending on how you kind of see things. Obviously, like I say, I mean, I sit on the fence with these things, but it's just weird how it's happened. 4 of the times that I've seen a pangolin, somebody has kind of passed away within a few days or day before seeing one, so very weird. But unfortunately, like I say, it's still curled up. I was really hoping that it's going to kind of come out and walk around for you, and we get to see it. But that initial kind of part where we saw it with the lion is just absolutely ridiculous. Still, to see that lion kind of with its paws on a pangolin is something that is very, very rare to see, and in fact probably the only place that you see it with any sort of regularity is in Swalu, in the Kalahari Desert. So you see lions often playing with pangolins there. It's a good place to actually see pangolins a little bit more regularly than what we do. Now, I must apologize earlier. I probably was completely out of control when we saw a pangolin, and probably spoke at 1,000,000 miles an hour and was very excited, but that's the way it is. I'm afraid I shouldn't even apologize about it, because pangolins are that special. I believe FC was also a flurry, and hopefully you guys at home were also kind of in much excitement and lots of kind of I don't know, nervous energy, I suppose. Not nervous energy, I don't know what the word is. It's excitement is the word, I suppose. That's all there is to it. But it got to be one of the more special things. No way did I ever think that we would see a pangolin tonight. Manu, you must also be quite lucky with pangolins, because Manu actually is the last SafariLive crew member to have seen a pangolin. When did you see it? A month ago? About a month ago. Manu saw a pangolin far from where we are now, so definitely not the same pangolin. Saw it down towards, where we saw Kenya the other day. Who saw it? Lucy spotted it. So Lucy, who's our newest crew member, has seen a pangolin before many of the older staff. So, maybe it's Manu that's the luck. But this afternoon has just been one of those kind of very special drives. And it's an interesting thing, because when we left for drive and we were coming down the hill, Manu and I actually weren't supposed to be on drive this afternoon. But James has had to do a lot of work with the trainees during the course of the day. And so we said we'll go out and we'll handle things so he can, have a bit of extra time and get some time with the trainees before he goes on leave. And we were kind of heading out, and I was saying to Manu, I feel like we're going to get an epic sighting, and let's go back to the Olololos. And I'm pretty sure that there might have been a few people that were a bit skeptical of going to lions in a hot afternoon and not much happening. But from the moment we got there, the lions awoke up. We had the storm that came in, that epic views of that. And then to get to this point where we're at right now with the pangolin is pretty ridiculous. And I'm sitting here talking, and it's almost one of those moments where you've got to pinch yourself that on the screen is a little scaly ball called a pangolin, and that it's just sitting there ever so still. Amazing. Now, Emma, you are more than welcome to stay with us. I'm quite happy to talk for 5 more minutes if everybody's happy to listen to me talking for 5 minutes. Hopefully our pangolin will move. You know what's going to happen is we're going to finish the show and the pangolin's going to unravel about 30 seconds after the kind of credits roll. So we'll hope that it doesn't, and we hope that this pangolin listens. Now, pangolin, we're talking to you. You have to unravel so that everybody can see you, so that everyone spreads the word about how special you are, and that people stop hunting your kind. Okay? Pangolin's not listening at this stage, but maybe just now. Maybe it just takes a while to sink in past all of those keratin scales. Now, a lot of you are agreeing with me. Look, we'll stick around with it for a little bit after even the show, and if it does decide to wake up, I'm not going to stay forever, but we'll stay for a few minutes after and decide to see if it is going to unravel, and if it does, whether or not we can kind of get a view for you guys so that you can kind of see it. Sea control, yes, the moths do really like the pangolin. They are best friends. Probably because in some way those moths... There we go, it's moving. Look, guys. Look, it's moving. It's unraveling. Come on. No, back down again. It's getting there. It's slowly starting to wake up. Come on. So if it's moving like that, then everything is okay. Then it's not, like I said, it's not dead. So many of you might have thought it was dead, but let's just give it a chance. It's definitely moved a little bit. That's the first sign of movement we've had since we first spotted it. Now, come on. Maybe it's all the moths, and it's listening to us, hopefully. Now, we will, if we see it starting to kind of move a bit more and a bit more, then eventually we'll just extend the show a little bit, so don't worry. If there is a sign of movement, we're not going to cut you guys off and leave you there, so hopefully it will unravel, but definite little sign of movement there. Slowly but surely it should open up. Now, Brent says don't be shy. Is that our Brent, or is this another Brent? It's very confusing. There's 2 Brents, so I don't know how Brent is doing. Actually, shame now while we're sitting with this pangolin talking about Brent, but I believe it's another Brent. But shame, poor Brenty. I spoke to Jamie yesterday evening just to see how Brenty was doing, because obviously he had an emotional day yesterday morning, and on top of that had that very, very bad infection in his tooth, and apparently was really not doing very well yesterday evening in terms of his face was very swollen and sore, but he had managed to get some antibiotics, and hopefully that will help. But Jamie said that shame, he was struggling a little bit, and I think he was a bit heart sore too. As much as he probably wouldn't have said so, I think, it was a big decision for him to have decided to leave Wild Earth, and not something that he took lightly. Obviously being probably one of... Yes, hopefully he can crawl up into a board and recover, but, being one of probably Brent's, I would say, better friends at SafariLive, and in fact, the fact that I'm on his groomsman list is, we chatted a lot about his decision before he made it, and, whether or not it was the right call, and he was very conflicted about it, even until the last day. So, I think he maybe feeling a little sorry for himself yesterday, but hopefully a speedy recovery. So Brenty, if you are watching, or if you, Jamie, or anybody, then I hope that you're feeling better today, and that your face starts to come right, and that your tooth settles down. The antibiotics he's on will work pretty quickly, so that should be good. Come on, little pangolin. You gave us all hope. Come on. Oh, it's not opening us. Peter? No, we can't tell if it's a Peter or Patricia, unfortunately, yet. If it unravels and it starts to walk, then potentially, and it's very tricky because you've got to see it from the underside, and if it's got little swollen mammaries, then you might see that it's a Patricia, but it's very tricky to tell the sex of a pangolin. Not an easy thing to do, particularly if they roll up and curled in a ball like this. Now, we are coming towards the end of the show, but let's just give it an extra minute or two. We were supposed to kind of finish, I think, in the next sort of 40 seconds or so, but we'll give it an extra 2 or 3 minutes. Let's just give it a bash. You never know, maybe it unravels. and we get to see something. One of the probably the nicer pangolin sightings I've had was on a evening very similar to this. A storm had kind of come through and it just passed, and a pangolin kind of emerged, and it actually sat and watched us for a while, and it was almost as if it was kind of tasting the air, and it kept sticking its tongue out directly at us, which was absolutely amazing. And you could see this long tongue, and it would kind of stick it out and then look at us and stick it out, and it sat there for it felt like a long time, but it must have been only about 5 minutes. And it just kept sticking its tongue in and out, and to see the tongue was actually pretty incredible. So hopefully, I'm really hoping that it's going to do something for us. There was at least movement, which means we know that it's not dead, which is a good thing, because obviously those are things that we kind of panic about from time to time, but at least, it's okay. Everybody is relieved, I believe, that we do not have a dead pangolin on our hands. Yes, I think we all are. So Paula, you say, come on little fella, time to wake up and show everybody. I agree, Paula. Come on. It would be so nice if it did, wouldn't it? We've been given so much by nature today. I suppose we can't really be upset if it doesn't, but it would just be the cherry on top if it just emerged with its little face and gave us even a 50-second view of the face and looked at us a little bit and then started to move off. I would be more than happy and would be thoroughly thrilled by it. So, come on, be nice to us. Shame. I think it's being a little bit... Peter, my absolute pleasure. Thank you for being along for the ride, that you got to see your first pangolin, and many, many others, I'm sure, that got to see their first one. It's an absolute pleasure to have you guys. Like I say, it's when I was talking about it earlier today, when we were talking about viewers and you guys participating in this, is what makes this show so special, and why it's such a delight for us as guides to work for something like this. I mean, you must remember that most of us, this is completely foreign, talking to a camera and those kind of things. We're used to talking to people in real life, on the back of vehicles, and being able to interact with people, and not just the 6 people or 8 people that are on the back of your car, but the hundreds and thousands that are on the drives, and the fact that community is such a diverse background, and so many people with so many interesting little bits to add to it, just makes it that much more special. And we're a very small part of this entire kind of community, and you guys are certainly the bulk of it, and which, like I say, it makes it an interesting and special kind of thing to do, and certainly a very, very pleasure to come out here every day and show you guys wildlife through our eyes, which is also a very special thing for us, because we get to see the things we like, and hopefully that rubs off on you guys. Chingwana, you say you've never heard of a pangolin until now, and that's precisely what I was hoping for, is why I would hope to get pangolin sightings, is because there's so little that so many people have no idea what a pangolin is, and when they see a pangolin, they always lump it with an armadillo, and it's not an armadillo. It's not in any way the same animal. It doesn't occur in the same places, and it certainly is in a far worse off state than what armadillos are. So when people see it, then they start to ask questions about it, they start to look into it, they start to realize these things, and hopefully that can turn the tide, and we can start to actually protect these animals far better than what we have already, because we are failing this animal rather badly, and it's not great. The good news, no. So whoever told you that it was a cross between a penguin and a lion has got a wicked sense of humor and has sold you down the river, I'm afraid. So it is not at all, and while it may be a mythical creature in many respects, because we hardly ever see it, it certainly isn't something that is a cross between anything. Oh, little pangolin. Alright, so Emma, I think we can finish up now, and I'll sit here, I promise I'll sit with it for another 10 minutes or so, and if it does, I'll certainly go back live again, so just pay attention to your notifications, and then we can, because otherwise we might sit here for 3-4 hours, but I will sit with it myself and see if we can send all the other guys home. But anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully the pangolin does move, and we'll see you again just now. If it doesn't though, what a special evening we've had. We've had all bit of everything today, from getting stuck, Marshmallow Club, to pangolins, to lions, to storms, to all kinds of folklores with Sydney. So from Sydney, David, myself, Emma in Final Control, all the cam ops, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning on the Sunrise Safari.